Hey guys, tonight we're landing on the beaches of Normandy, yes, those beaches. The salty wind stings your eyes, the ramp's about to drop, and that thing you had for breakfast? Yeah, it's about to stage a hasty retreat. You're surrounded by the creak of metal, the roar of engines, and the constant shrieking whistle of incoming shells. Water slaps against the sides of your landing craft like an impatient toddler, and every breath is a mixture of seawater, diesel fumes, and the faint scent of fear. You're not watching this unfold from a documentary. You're in it. And spoiler, you probably won't survive this. Most guys in the first wave didn't. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, post your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where and when you're listening from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. It's the 6th of June, 1944 D-Day. You're in the cold Atlantic, bouncing in a Higgins boat with 35 other guys, packed so tightly you're practically breathing someone else's air. The sun is up, but it doesn't matter. Your world is a narrow metal box on a rising sea, heading straight for the gates of hell. The coast of France looms ahead, blurry through the mist and the smoke from naval bombardments. You're supposed to land on Omaha Beach. Historians still argue whether Allied intelligence truly understood how bad the German defenses were here, or if they just hoped sheer numbers would crush the resistance. Your lieutenant shouts something, but it's lost in the mix of motor noise and your own pounding heart. Then clang. The ramp drops. Everything explodes into movement. Bullets hammer the front of the boat before you even step off. You hesitate. Everyone does. The guy in front of you is shot before he reaches the water. Then someone behind you pushes forward, and you're forced to follow. The water's waist deep and ice cold, dragging at your uniform like it's trying to pull you under. Your boots fill instantly. One hand clutches your rifle above your head. The other fights to keep balance. You feel like a sack of wet laundry being tossed toward a meat grinder. To your right, a man loses his footing and goes under. Doesn't come up. To your left, someone screams for a medic who's already dead. You've barely made it 10 yards when a mortar round lands behind you. The blast lifts your body and slams it into the surf. Your ears ring. Your teeth chatter. You taste sand and blood. Welcome to Normandy. You finally reach a sandbar and drop flat behind one of the Czech hedgehogs, those massive steel X's meant to trap landing craft. It's not real cover, but it's better than nothing. You dig your fingers into the wet sand like it owes you money. A few yards ahead, a group tries to move up the beach. They don't get far. A machine gun from the bluff tears them apart. You can't even tell who they were. Faces are gone, names are lost. Just like that. You're supposed to push forward. That's what the briefing said. Secure the beachhead. Move inland. Easy, right? Except nobody accounted for how the pillboxes are still intact, how the tide is against you, how the beach is a graveyard before breakfast. A soldier next to you, maybe 19, is sobbing uncontrollably. Not wounded, just cracked. You don't judge him. You don't have the energy. Suddenly, a figure appears beside you, your sergeant. His helmet is dented. His lip is bleeding, but his voice is sharp. Move. Move now or die here. He gestures toward a section where the smoke is thickest. You nod. It's the dumbest plan ever, but it's the only one you've got. You crawl on your belly, 1 inch at a time, scraping your elbows raw. The sand is wet and sticky, and your rifle feels like it weighs 100 pounds. A jellyfish flops near your arm. You briefly wonder if stepping on it would be worse than getting shot. Somewhere behind you, a guy yells, "Hey, anyone see my glasses?" You almost laugh, but you're too busy trying to keep your face attached. Eventually, you reach the start of a shallow trench. Some earlier unit tried to dig in but didn't finish. You drop in like a diver, entering a swimming pool full of rocks. Here, it's just quiet enough to hear your own breath. You realize you've been holding it for who knows how long. There's a lull in the firing, just long enough for you to peek over the edge and spot one of the pillboxes ahead. A strange moment of stillness falls across this tiny piece of beach. For a second, the war feels like a poorly designed theme park. The sounds are too loud, the smells are too real, the colors are all wrong. Quirky tidbit? Some guys coming ashore had crates full of inflatable decoy tanks. They'd later use them to fool the Germans about Allied positions. You're not thinking about that now, but in a few weeks, you might. Just then, someone shouts, "Bangalore!" A pair of engineers run past you, lugging a long tube filled with explosives meant to clear barbed wire. They disappear into the mist. You wait for the blast. Boom! Sand and earth rain down like cursed confetti. A hole opens in the wire. Someone screams, "Go!" You stand. You run. Your legs feel like rusted springs. Your gear is soaked. And yet, you charge toward the next obstacle, like a man possessed. Because you are. Possessed by fear, by momentum, by the strange belief that if you keep going, something better waits at the top of the hill. The beach falls behind. You don't remember exactly how you crossed the rest of the sand, only that somehow your boots found dirt instead of water, and your legs didn't collapse beneath you. The incline grows steeper as you reach the base of the bluffs, where tufts of grass and cracked earth offer your first real handholds. Bullets still whiz by, but the worst of the machine gun fire is now aimed behind you, toward the guys still struggling ashore. You try not to look back. You definitely don't count heads. Your squad fans out among a patchwork of broken stone, bomb craters, and half-scorched shrubs. Your hands are numb, your rifles jammed with sand, and your teeth are grinding so hard you're sure you'll need dentures at age 23. The orders are simple: move forward. But in this terrain, forward is more concept than direction. Normandy's coast is deceptive. From the boats, it looked like a clean beach and a straight slope. Now, it's clear this place is a mess of gullies, ridges, and unnatural dips left behind by the naval bombardment. You trudge past a destroyed ammo crate, and inside it, tucked beside a half-melted grenade, is a French comic book, its cover still strangely intact. A soldier next to you picks it up, laughs dryly, and says, "Looks better than the comics back home." You don't respond. You're trying to breathe without wheezing, think without panicking, and somehow keep moving uphill. Then, an explosion. Dirt showers your helmet as someone hits a landmine behind you. It wasn't one of your guys, but the sound still echoes through your bones like a church bell at a funeral. The sky is grey, cloud thick, and the wind pushes the scent of cordite into your nose. There's a bitter edge to it, like fireworks mixed with burning tires. You push on, feet sinking into the muck, until a clump of men waves you down near a twisted barbed wire fence. One of them, an older guy, mid-32nd, probably National Guard, has a map drawn on a scrap of toilet paper. He explains the pillbox ahead covers a wide arc of the hillside, with overlapping fields of fire. Historians still argue whether German engineers designed those fields to be that efficient, or whether it was just a grim coincidence of terrain and tactics. Either way, it's working. Your job? Flank it. You move out again, zigzagging through a shallow ravine that smells like wet hay and something else you don't want to identify. Every few steps you drop low, then pop up, rifle raised, expecting an ambush. But the Germans aren't visible. They're dug in somewhere up the hill, quiet as ghosts and twice as deadly. Then, a strange moment. As you duck behind a large, mossy rock, you hear music. Actual music. Faint, tinny, and haunting. Someone's left a wind-up phonograph playing inside a collapsed bunker. It's a waltz, probably German, maybe Austrian. You half expect a ballerina to spin out of the fog. You glance at the guy next to you. He shrugs, mutters, "At least they have taste," and presses forward. By now, your uniform's soaked through, your socks squish, and your canteen tastes like rust. You take one sip and pour the rest over your rifle's bolt to clear the grit. It works. Kind of. You crawl the final stretch toward the bunker. The dirt here is loose and clings to your skin like flour. Your heart is pounding again. It's always pounding. You wonder if it'll ever slow down again. You picture yourself back home, trying to sleep, but every creak of a door will feel like another mortar round. Every firework like incoming artillery. Suddenly, a movement one of the Germans runs from the pillbox. He's not even firing, just sprinting. Another follows. You and two others open fire, but miss wide. You don't care. You're not a sniper. You're just a guy who's tired, scared, and somehow still alive. The bunker's now empty. You storm it with the rest of the squad. The interior is cramped, smells like sweat and diesel, and there's a pot of coffee still warm on a tiny stove. One soldier, clearly done with protocol, pours a cup, takes a sip, and mutters, "Not bad." Oh, quirky tidbit. Some GIs later reported finding sausages cooking in German outposts, left mid-fry as the defenders fled. In your case, it's just cold potatoes in a dented pan. Still, better than your last ration. Outside, the wind shifts, and for the first time all day, you feel the sun on your back. It's faint, filtered through the smoke and cloud, but it's there. You close your eyes for 1 second too long and nearly drift off standing. Your sergeant barks to keep moving. More pillboxes await, more hills, more sand and mud. You nod and fall back in line. Behind you, the beach is still under fire. Ahead, the countryside is broken, but open. You haven't won anything yet, but you've made it past the sand. Your boots are heavy, but they're still moving. And that's something. You shuffle forward, uphill now, your boots squelching with every reluctant step. The gear on your back drags at your shoulders like a sack of bricks soaked in regret. Somewhere behind you, the ocean crashes against the beach in steady rhythm. But here, just beyond the bluffs, the war changes tempo. It's no longer a roaring chaos. It's twitchy, tense, controlled mayhem. Ahead is a tangle of small hedgerows and farm lanes, twisted by centuries of peasant labour into a maze tailor-made for ambushes. The squad regroups behind a row of shrubs, rifles resting across laps, breath coming in gasps. The ground is firmer here, real soil, not that cold, wet sand, but your ankles already miss the ocean's give. Someone passes around a crumpled chocolate bar from their ration pack, and you all take a bite. It's waxy, barely chocolate, but it tastes like safety, if only for 3 seconds. Then, confusion. A new order's come down apparently. You're supposed to link up with a Canadian unit a few kilometres inland. The lieutenant squints at a map that looks like it was printed by someone who'd never been to France and definitely had beef with logic. The road marked on it doesn't exist. Or maybe it did, before the bombing. You all look at each other, shrug, and start walking. There's no clear front line. Not here. Not yet. Normandy is fractured. You advance 100 yards, but the Germans might be dug in 30 feet away behind a hedgerow, perfectly still, perfectly silent. You know they're there, you just don't know when they'll open fire. A chicken flutters out of a bush and nearly gives your buddy a heart attack. He raises his rifle, hesitates, then lets it go. You joke, "Dinner?" But no one laughs. Not yet. Not until you're sure it really was just a chicken. Up ahead, you spot a tree line and a shallow depression that could make decent cover. As you move toward it, a figure stumbles out American uniform, helmet askew, face ghost pale. He's clutching a radio unit that looks like it's been through a blender. "No contact," he mutters. "The line's gone. HQ's not answering." He joins your group without being asked. That's how things go now. Ranks blur. Squads blend. You just grab anyone who can still hold a weapon and move forward. You press into the hedgerow. The foliage is thick, tangled, and lined with thorns sharp enough to pierce your gloves. You're sweating under your helmet. It itches. Everything itches. And you're suddenly, stupidly aware of how badly you have to pee. But there's no stopping now. Your sergeant gives a hand signal spread out, low, rifles up. You obey. Always easier to move than think. Quirky bit of trivia? The Normandy hedgerows bocage, as they're called, weren't just bushes. They were ancient earthworks, built over centuries, reinforced with stone and tree roots. In many places, they were taller than a man, and dense enough to stop tanks. Farmers used to say you could hear your neighbour talking, but never see him. Now, they're the perfect place for an ambush. You move slowly, 1 foot over the other, keeping low, muzzle forward. Then it happens. Gunfire. From somewhere ahead and right, close, too close. Someone screams. You hit the ground. Bullets tear through the hedges, snapping branches and kicking up dirt in stinging sprays. You crawl toward a ditch, belly flat, lips pressed to the earth. The soldier next to you gets hit arm, maybe shoulder, you can't tell. He curses like a cartoon villain and keeps crawling. Your squad returns fire, but it's chaos. You're shooting through leaves into shadows. You hear the Germans shouting to each other, quick, guttural, organized. You get a glimpse of one through a break in the leaves. He's younger than you, maybe 17. You don't shoot, he's already gone. The lieutenant pulls back, yelling for smoke grenades. The squad lobs to, and a billowing white fog smothers the path ahead. It buys you 10 seconds, just enough to retreat into thicker brush and regroup. It's not cowardice, it's survival. Once you're out of range, someone asks if it was an SS unit. You don't know. Could have been regular Wehrmacht, could have been Hitler Youth. Historians still argue whether German units in that sector were elite or just better hidden. To you, it doesn't matter. A bullet's a bullet. Eventually, you find shelter in a collapsed barn behind the tree line. It smells like manure and old hay, but it's cover. You check your weapon. Jammed again. You clear it. Your hands are shaking. Someone in the back of the group lights a cigarette, and for once, no one stops him. The smoke curls into the beams above like a ghost trying to escape. You exhale through your nose, not really breathing, just existing. One guy starts talking about home. He says he worked in a bowling alley in Des Moines. Hated it. Now he just wants to go back. Another guy mutters, "I hope my wife's not pregnant." No one replies. A third guy jokes that if he survives this, he's becoming a monk. That one actually gets a chuckle. You lean your head back and let your eyes flutter closed for a moment. Just one moment. There's no such thing as a real break in Normandy. But for these few seconds, it's quiet again. No one's shooting. No one's dying. It feels like something resembling peace. You know it won't last, but you also know you'll move forward when it ends, because that's what you're here to do. You wake with a jolt, head banging softly against the barn's half-rotted wall. For a second, you're disoriented. No gunfire, no yelling, no incoming mortars, just the quiet creak of timber and the distant squawk of some bird you can't name. But your fingers are still curled tightly around your rifle, and your legs are cramping from sleeping in your gear. You're not safe. You're just paused. Your buddy Sam, maybe? Or Stan? You realize you've never asked leans against a haystack beside you. He's munching on a dry biscuit, smirking like he's sitting at a baseball game. "You ever had real New York pizza?" he asks out of nowhere. You blink. "What?" He laughs, just trying to remember what the hell it's like to be a person. You grin despite yourself. You've never been to New York. You're from Topeka. But yeah, pizza sounds like a memory worth chasing right now. The sun has climbed higher, filtered through holes in the barn's roof, and setting the dust motes swirling like lazy fireflies. You stretch, wince, and step outside with the rest of the squad. Time to move. Time to find out what's waiting behind the next hedgerow. You pass a small field where a cow grazes near a broken fence. She watches you without blinking, unbothered by your presence, even as someone trips over a half-buried helmet nearby. Somewhere to the north, artillery thuds faintly. Not close, but not far enough for comfort either. You glance at the map again and try not to laugh. It's still wrong. Your new orders involve linking with an armoured unit that was supposed to push inland from Gold Beach. The word "supposed" is doing a lot of heavy lifting. So, you start walking again single file along a dirt path that curves between more hedgerows and low stone walls. The path smells of damp earth and crushed greenery. At least it's not raining. Yet, about a mile in, your lieutenant holds up a fist. You freeze. There's movement ahead, civilians. You all tense instinctively. It could be a trap. Could be collaborators. Could be anything. But as they approach, you realize it's just a French family, 2 women, an old man, and a child. They're carrying what they can in bundles, clothes, pans, a photo frame with the glass shattered. Their eyes meet yours with a mix of fear and exhaustion. The older woman offers a cautious mercy and then keeps walking. The little girl, maybe 8 years old, tugs on her grandmother's coat and whispers something. She's holding a tin box painted with flowers. You watch them disappear down the lane, their footsteps barely audible on the soft dirt. One guy mutters, "That's what we're fighting for, right?" No one answers. But you all think the same thing. It better be. As you round the next bend, gunfire erupts quick, close, angry. Everyone hits the dirt. You scramble behind a thick tree stump, peeking toward the sound. It's coming from a nearby farmhouse, 2 stories tall, with pale stone walls and ivy climbing up its side like it hasn't heard there's a war going on. From an upstairs window, a machine gun spits out bursts. You can see the muzzle flash, but not the shooter. The sergeant shouts for suppressive fire. You and 3 others let loose in the general direction. Glass shatters. A chicken coop explodes in feathers. The gun goes quiet. A moment later, a grenade arcs from the left flank one of yours. It tumbles through the window and disappears. Boom. The upper floor caves in like a deflated accordion. You wait. Listen. No more fire. Someone yells, "Clear," and your squad moves in. Inside, it's chaos. The bottom floor is covered in dust, rubble, and the sour smell of spilled wine. In the corner, there's a half-eaten loaf of bread and a wooden table set for 2. You can't help but stare. One of the guys rifles through a cabinet and finds a tin of coffee. Another uncovers a box of biscuits. Everyone suddenly turns into foragers. It's not looting. Not really. It's survival. There's a small photo on the wall. A man in uniform with a thick moustache and kind eyes. Probably French army from World War I. You wonder if he's still alive. You wonder if he ever thought his home would host another war. Historians still argue whether the local French population welcomed the Allied invasion wholeheartedly, or just tolerated it out of desperation. You think of the old man in that group you passed earlier. His face didn't look like victory. It looked like loss. You step outside to get some air. The breeze carries a new smell: gunpowder and spring blossoms. A weirdly poetic mix. The kind of thing that sticks with you years later when you're sitting alone on a porch, wondering if it really happened. One soldier starts talking about ice cream again. Not the military-issued stuff. Real ice cream. The kind with chunks of chocolate and no expiration date. "I'm going to open a shop when I get back," he says. "Make my own. Big scoops." Another guy jokes, "You can call it Sherman's sherbet." That one actually gets a real laugh. Short, honest, unexpected. Quirky fact? During the invasion, some troops carried inflatable dummies. Fake paratroopers dropped to confuse the Germans. They even had small firecrackers to mimic gunfire. Somewhere out there, a blown-up doll is lying in a ditch, having served its country with honor. You sling your rifle and keep walking. There's no celebration, no marching band, just another hill to climb, another field to cross, and the strange comfort of your squad's familiar silhouettes moving beside you. You feel the grit between your teeth, the soreness in your knees, and that weird itch under your helmet that never goes away. But you're still moving, still here, still human somehow. You barely make it a few hundred yards past the farmhouse when the smell hits you sharp, metallic, wrong. Your stomach turns before your brain even catches up. The squad slows, and someone mutters, "This isn't good." It isn't. You follow the path around a bend where a thin stand of trees opens into a shallow depression. At the bottom, half covered in grass and brush, are the first bodies you've seen up close. Real close. American uniforms. Probably from the first wave. Maybe from another unit entirely. Hard to tell. Helmets are scattered like dropped bowls, and one boot sticks up at an unnatural angle. A few rifles lie untouched. Mud has half swallowed them. You feel like you're walking through the last chapter of a story nobody finished reading. A medic crouches beside one of the fallen, checking dog tags. He doesn't flinch, doesn't pause, just methodically moves from body to body, collecting what he can. Later, you hear him mutter, "He was 17. Oh." You don't ask who he means. You help where you can. You grab a makeshift stretcher, just a torn tent flap and 2 wooden rods, and carry a man with a leg wound so severe you can't believe he's still breathing. He's mostly unconscious, drifting in and out. He mumbles something about Cincinnati, or cinnamon rolls, maybe both. His blood stains your uniform, but you keep a grip on the stretcher, boots squelching with every step. Quirky historical tidbit? In the chaos of the Normandy landings, some soldiers were accidentally dropped miles from their assigned sectors. One famously ended up leading a group of paratroopers he didn't even know, simply because he sounded like he knew what he was doing. War, it turns out, rewards confidence, even the fake kind. You reach a clearing where a field medic station is being set up. It's just a few tarps strung between trees and some crates of bandages. A chaplain sits nearby, whispering to a man with a tourniquet on each leg. The chaplain's collar is stained, and his hands shake, but his voice doesn't waver. You drop the stretcher and step back, wiping sweat from your forehead, with a sleeve already soaked in someone else's pain. Then you sit, and finally breathe. The field is eerily quiet. Someone passes around a canteen. It smells like iodine, tastes worse. But you drink it anyway. One of the sergeants, a grizzled guy named Briggs, with a scar down his temple, plops down next to you and lights a cigarette. "You think it'll be over soon?" he asks, not looking at you. You shrug. He exhales smoke like a man blowing out birthday candles he never asked for. "It never ends quick," he says. "Not the real stuff." There's a long pause. Then, like a bizarre gift from the gods of absurdity, someone nearby starts humming. Loudly. Cheerfully. It's "Don't Sit Under the Apple Tree," a tune you hadn't thought of since basic. One guy joins in, then another. Pretty soon, a half-dozen voices are weakly singing that silly wartime tune under a sky that smells of death and victory at the same time. You don't sing, but you listen. It's comforting in the strangest way. You're surrounded by exhausted, dirty, half-broken men, and for a minute, they sound like kids on a camping trip. Bad harmony, worse pitch, but something human cuts through. Historians still argue whether these moments of levity were real or just romanticized by memoirs and movies. But here, with dirt under your nails and a cramp in your spine, you know for certain it's real, and it matters. Then the call comes, "Move out." You rise, every bone creaking in protest. The sun is lower now, casting long shadows across the fields. You fall back into line, your boots heavy with mud and something else you can't name. The road ahead is lined with small craters and broken fences. A burned-out jeep smoulders quietly in the ditch, its tires melted into blobs. The smell of oil hangs in the air, like something burnt in a forgotten kitchen. You step over what looks like a shattered harmonica. You wonder who it belonged to. Did they ever play it? Did anyone sing along? Ahead, someone stumbles on a jagged rock and nearly goes down. You grab his arm before he falls. He nods. Doesn't say thank you. Doesn't have to. You're all a little quieter now. A little more cautious. The day has taken a toll, even on those who didn't bleed. A short while later, you pass a shallow creek. The water's cold, running clear over smooth stones. One guy drops to his knees and starts washing his face like it's a spa treatment. Another tries to refill his canteen, but ends up drinking straight from the stream, cupping the water in his hands like a child at recess. You do the same. And for a minute just one, there's no war. Just the sound of trickling water and birds in the trees. Then a whistle blows. The lieutenant raises a hand. And you move on. Back into the trees. Back toward whatever comes next. Because Normandy doesn't wait. And neither do you. The trees thicken again as you press deeper into the Norman countryside, branches stretching above like crooked fingers trying to block the sun. Your squad moves in staggered silence. Each man spaced out just enough so a single mortar can't take out all of you. You've learned that lesson already more than once. The ground underfoot is soft, freshly torn by tank treads and boots, and smells like fertilizer and cordite. Somewhere nearby, a bird sings, oblivious to your intrusion. It's a strange contradiction. So much green, so much life, and yet, at every turn, death feels like it's just crouched behind a tree stump, waiting to tap your shoulder. The hedgerows come back into view taller now, more ominous. You'd think plants wouldn't be scary. You'd be wrong. Normandy's bocage is like a living labyrinth. Thick roots, dense leaves, and earthen mounds reinforced by generations of farmers trying to keep cattle in. And now, soldiers out. The word comes down, dig in. You're halting here until further orders. Maybe the Canadians haven't caught up. Maybe the tanks are stuck again. Or maybe, just maybe, command is trying to figure out what the heck is even going on. Historians still argue whether Allied leadership truly understood how the hedgerows would grind their advance into a slow, brutal crawl. Some say it was underestimation. Others say it was pure logistical nightmare. You pick a spot along the tree line and drop your pack. Time to dig. Again. Your entrenching tool, just a glorified folding shovel, is already bent from yesterday. Doesn't matter. You kneel, and start hacking at the earth, carving out a hole barely big enough for your torso. Each scoop of dirt feels like a personal insult. The soil is full of stones, roots, and something that looks suspiciously like bone. You pretend it's just animal. After an hour, you've got a foxhole that's lopsided, muddy, and barely deep enough to hide your head. It'll do. You sit in it, knees to chest, helmet lopsided, and try not to think about how ridiculous this all is. You join to fight Nazis. You didn't think you'd spend so much time wrestling French dirt. Nearby, someone curses loudly. Their shovel snapped. Another guy mutters, "We should have brought a backhoe." The joke lands. A ripple of dry laughter drifts through the trees. The sergeant checks the line, nodding at each of your pits like a tired teacher grading very bad homework. "Not pretty," he says, "but it'll hold." For what? You don't ask. Then comes the quiet part, the worst part, the waiting. You sit in your hole, rifle across your knees, eyes scanning the brush for shadows that move. Your breathing slows, then deepens. The adrenaline from earlier seeps out, leaving behind a heavy fatigue that settles in your bones like cement. You try to remember what day it is. No idea. Tuesday? Maybe Wednesday. You think someone mentioned the 7th of June earlier, but it already feels like a different month. You pull out your rations. Crackers. A tin of cheese spread. It tastes like sadness. Someone a few foxholes over has a can of peaches. Actual peaches. And offers one slice to each man in reach. It's like biting into sunlight. The sweetness is so jarring it almost brings tears. Funny side fact? The army actually designed those peach cans with mini inspirational quotes under the lid. Yours says, "Keep your chin up, soldier." You snort. Too late. As night creeps in, the birds quiet down. The light fades into a bluish-grey haze, and everything takes on a dreamlike softness. Except your knees. Your knees are furious. You hear rustling to your left, just a squirrel. You still grip your rifle like it owes you money. To pass the time, someone starts whispering stories. One guy swears he saw General Eisenhower eating eggs 2 feet from the beach, calm as anything. Another tells a tale about a guy who parachuted into a tree and played dead for 12 hours while Germans picnicked underneath him. Historians still debate the truth of these tales. But out here, truth is optional. Stories keep you sane. You lean back against the edge of your foxhole and let your eyes flutter closed. Then the artillery starts. Distant at first, low thuds echoing through the hills like gods slamming doors. Then closer. One round whistles so near you feel it in your chest before it hits. The ground shakes. Dirt falls into your eyes. You curl tighter into the hole. The sky flashes orange. Leaves fall like snow. Then silence. No follow-up. Just one brief, terrifying reminder that you're never safe. That Normandy doesn't sleep. You exhale, slow and shaky. You check your rifle. Still there. Still functional. You check your boots. Still soggy. Still smell like pond water and despair. Then you hear a voice. Soft. Nearby. It's your squad mate again, whispering to no one in particular. You think they've got good coffee in Paris? A beat. Then someone else answers. Only if you live long enough to find out. Another beat. Then I guess we better not die in a damn bush. You smile. You don't laugh, but you smile. And for now, that's enough. You don't get much sleep. Just a few half-lucid dreams, stitched together with rifle checks and cold jolts of panic. But the sky eventually begins to lighten. Not with sunrise, there's too much fog for that, but with a softening of the darkness. A greyish blur bleeds into the trees, and slowly the world comes back into view. Your back aches. Your legs have fallen asleep. Your spine feels like it lost a bet. But you're alive. You stretch slowly, wincing, and check your surroundings. The others are emerging too, yawning like men who slept on gravel, which, to be fair, they did. A few dig into their pockets for gum or stale biscuits. One guy pulls a small mirror from his pack and checks his face like he might actually shave out here. You raise a brow. He shrugs. If I die today, I want to die not looking like a potato. The quiet doesn't last. A runner appears from behind the tree line, breathless, mud from head to toe. Sniper, he gasps. Farmhouse, red shutters. We lost 2 already. You all groan at once. There's no glory in a sniper fight. just fear and frustration. You pack up quickly, leaving your foxhole like a freshly dug grave. As you move, you pass a soldier being carried back by two others. He's silent, wide-eyed, and holding his own helmet like a newborn. "Where was he hit?" someone asks. "In the shadow," comes the answer. "Didn't even poke his head up." Snipers are a different kind of terror. The randomness, the quiet, the waiting. They're not part of the orchestra of war, they're soloists. Precise, patient, and terrifying. You spread out as you approach the farmhouse. It sits quietly at the edge of an open pasture, red shutters just visible through a screen of trees. The roof is sagging. Smoke curls from a chimney like nothing's wrong at all. Historians still debate how many German snipers were regular infantry with scoped rifles, and how many were trained marksmen left specifically to stall Allied advances. Either way, they did their job. Your squad circles around, forming a rough perimeter. You keep your eyes on every window, every crack in the shutters, every flicker of movement. Your palms are sweating. Your trigger finger twitches involuntarily every few seconds. Then movement in the upper window. A single shot rings out. Everyone hits the ground. The bullet strikes a tree to your left with a crack and a spray of bark. Someone yells, "Top right window!" Another guy opens fire blindly. The farmhouse explodes in a flurry of return fire, some aimed, some desperate. You follow suit, squeezing off rounds at anything that looks remotely hostile. You can't see the sniper, but you know they can see you. After a few minutes, the fire stops. Quiet returns. It's even worse than the gunfire. Then your lieutenant signals two men forward, flank left, enter from the back. It's the worst job in the world, but they go without protest. You cover them from behind a stack of firewood, praying the sniper is gone, or out of ammo. The two disappear behind the house. One knocks once on the rear wall, then again. Nothing. Then, boom, a grenade goes off inside. Dust clouds the air. You wait. The all-clear signal comes after what feels like a week. Inside, you find the sniper. She's young, maybe 20. German uniform, rifle still in her lap, one boot off. There's a tin cup of cold tea on the floor next to her. The blast got her. No glory, no last stand, just a job she didn't finish. One of your guys leans over and mutters, "Thought snipers were supposed to be men." Another shrugs. "War doesn't care." Quirky fact? Some German sniper teams included women, especially in the East. But there's no clear record of how many operated in France. Historians still argue over how rare or common female combatants were in Normandy. You move through the house. The kitchen is intact. There's a loaf of rye bread on the table, covered in a thin cloth. Someone lifts the cloth, finds a wedge of hard cheese, and pockets it with a smirk. You snag a cracked tin plate and tuck it into your pack. Souvenir. Not useful. Just something to prove you were here. In a back room, you find an old Victrola. You lift the needle. It squeaks. No record on the turntable, but you imagine it playing something slow and scratchy, maybe a German waltz like the one you heard days ago, or hours ago. Time blurs in the bow cage. Outside, the squad regroups and takes a quick inventory. No new casualties, just nerves worn thinner than a ration biscuit. Your sergeant decides to hold the position for the hour. "We earned it," he says. He lights a cigarette and sits on a porch step like he owns the place. You lean against the wall and stare out at the pasture beyond. Sheep graze in the distance, totally unbothered. A butterfly flits by like it missed the memo about World War II. A soft breeze moves through the trees. For a moment, it carries the scent of lavender. Someone starts humming again. Not a wartime tune, just a melody. It's off-key, and you have no idea what it is. But it fills the space in a way bullets can't. You close your eyes not to sleep, just to rest. Because even now, you have to be ready. You're not sure when you drift off, but it's the cold that wakes you cold, and a slow drip of water hitting your forehead like the world's worst metronome. You open your eyes to find yourself curled in the corner of the farmhouse, your helmet pushed back slightly, letting raindrops find the one patch of exposed skin they're apparently determined to target. Someone mutters, "Rain." Again, as if surprised Normandy could possibly produce anything else. You groan softly and sit up. Your legs are numb, Your back is stiff, and your mouth tastes like you chewed a burlap sack overnight. You reach for your canteen, swish and spit. It doesn't help. Outside, the rain falls in a steady mist, not a dramatic downpour, just enough to soak everything slowly and make sure you never feel dry again. The ground is already turning to soup. You step out of the house and sink 2 inches into what used to be grass and is now just betrayal in mud form. You find your foxhole. It's filled with water. Of course it is. Guess we're sleeping in bathtubs tonight, someone mutters, staring into his own muddy trench. You all dig small channels with your entrenching tools, trying to redirect the water. It doesn't work. It never works. But doing something feels better than sitting in wet misery. A guy named Wilkins wraps his poncho around his shoulders and sits on an overturned ammo crate like a king on a damp, terrible throne. You know, he says, my girlfriend's idea of roughing it is a hotel without room service. You snort. She'd last 10 minutes here. Wilkins grins. I give her 5. Moments like that help. Not much, but a little. Humor is a thin blanket, but it's still a blanket. You crawl into your foxhole anyway, soaked to the ribs, and try to find a position that doesn't feel like lying in a trench full of regret and worms. Spoiler. You fail. You shift. You twist. You finally just give up and let the rain fall on your face, like it's some kind of spa treatment for people who lost a bet. Eventually, you start to nod off again. Not real sleep, just that weird in-between state where your body is still, but your brain keeps whispering, what was that noise? Every 47 seconds. And then, boom, a thunderclap? Number. That was artillery. You know the difference now. Your heart slams into gear. You grab your rifle, eyes scanning the dark. Another crack. This one smaller, maybe rifle fire. You duck lower. Everyone's awake now, blinking through rain and confusion, clutching weapons like lifelines. Nothing happens. Just rain. You wait. 30 seconds. A minute. 5. Nothing. False alarm? Maybe. Or maybe someone just got spooked and fired a warning shot into the hedgerow. You lower your rifle but keep it close. Eventually, you hear the soft thud of someone slipping in the mud and cursing in whisper tone. Welcome to another Normandy night. The hours drag. You check your watch. It's not even midnight. It feels like you've been in this foxhole since the Roman Empire. You look up. The sky's just a dark cloud-cloaked ceiling now. No stars, no moon, just wet. You think about home. About your room. Your bed. Your pillow not made of canvas and misery. You think about how you used to hate mornings because of school or work or chores. You'd trade 5 years of Saturdays to wake up in your old bedroom with dry socks. Quirky historical tidbit. Some GIs started making pillow substitutes by stuffing their helmet liners with newspaper or dry grass. You tried that once. It smelled like wet leaves and disappointment. Didn't help. Your stomach growls. You forgot dinner. Or maybe you skipped it on purpose. Who can remember? You pull out your ration tin. It's meat. Technically. The label says ham and eggs. The flavor says don't ask questions. You take a few bites. Chew slowly. Pretend it's something better. From 2 foxholes down, someone whispers, if I survive this, I'm opening a bakery. Another voice. I'm going to buy a boat. Another. I'm never eating ham again. You chuckle. Quietly. It's not much, but it's something. Your sergeant does a head count, just eyes and hand signals. Everyone's accounted for. That matters. Because even if no one's shooting at you tonight, Normandy itself is still trying to kill you with wet socks, mouldy boots, and trench foot. You've seen it already, guys, with toes turning purple, hobbling like old men. The medics say to change your socks every few hours. You haven't seen a dry pair of socks since Tuesday. Or was it Monday? Historians still argue whether D-Day was truly a turning point, or if the slog that followed this exact slog was where the real war lived. The rain, the cold, the boredom, punctuated by terror. You believe it, you know it. Finally, somewhere between I want pancakes and I hope I never see another tree again, your body gives out. You drift into shallow, broken sleep, the kind where you dream of walking barefoot across your high school football field, only you're carrying a rifle and everyone's yelling in French. You don't know what it means. You don't care. You're just glad you made it to morning. You wake up to the sound of rustling paper, soft, dry, unnatural in a world otherwise filled with mud and metal. You blink, rub grit from your eyes, and glance over the edge of your foxhole. It's Wilkins. He's reading a letter. Or trying to. His lips move slightly as he traces the lines with a dirty finger. You can't hear what it says, but you can tell it's not the first time he's read it. Probably not even the 10th. You've seen a lot of guys cling to letters like they're magic spells, something to keep death at bay a little longer. Good news? You whisper. Wilkins doesn't look up, just smirks. My sister's cat had kittens. You nod solemnly, like this is vital strategic intel, multiplying forces behind enemy lines. He chuckles. I like that. You sit up, stretching stiff joints that crack like rifle bolts. Your shoulders ache, your lower back is screaming, and there's a rock embedded in your thigh muscle that somehow moved in during the night and refuses to pay rent. You reach into your breast pocket and pull out your own letter. It's been read so many times the crease has nearly torn through the paper. Your sister wrote it. She included a joke about your high school gym teacher, a warning not to fall for any French girls, and a drawing childlike but heartfelt of a pie. Apple, she wrote, waiting on the windowsill for you. If you survive. You smile without realizing it, not big, just enough to feel human. It's strange. You wouldn't have called yourself sentimental before the war. But now, every tiny thing from home feels like a lifeline, like a secret stash of warmth hidden in your pocket. Nearby, someone's writing. You hear the pencil scratching on paper, deliberate, almost meditative. You glance over. It's Martinez, the radio guy who barely speaks but always listens. He's sitting cross-legged, balancing his notepad on a tin lid. What are you writing? Someone asks. Martinez doesn't look up. List of things I miss. There's a pause. Top 3. He hesitates, then holds up 3 fingers. Quiet. Bacon. Clean socks. Someone else snorts. In that order? Martinez nods. Dead serious. You shake your head, amused, then glance at your rifle. Still clean. Still oiled, still a part of your body now. The lieutenant arrives with a new order. Move out in 10, he says. We're pushing through to the next village. You ask, what village? He shrugs. Doesn't matter. We're passing through, clearing it if needed. That's how it goes. Names don't matter, coordinates do. And even those are fuzzy, changing with every shift in the line. The village, once you reach it, is barely a village. Just a collection of stone houses with sagging roofs. A shutterless bakery, a well that smells like old potatoes, and a road so muddy it might as well be a canal. But it's not empty. As you approach, a middle-aged man emerges with his hands raised, muttering in French. You can't understand him, but the tone is clear, not a threat. He's followed by others, women mostly, older men, a couple of kids peeking out from behind doorframes. One little boy wears a helmet far too big for him and makes pew-pew noises with a stick. His mother swats the stick from his hand like it's a live grenade. Wilkins steps forward with a chocolate bar and hands it to the boy. No words, just a quiet gesture. The boy hesitates, then grabs it and bolts behind the bakery. Quirky fact? GI-issued chocolate bars were often used as currency in France after the landings. So were cigarettes and soap. You've heard of whole trades. 5 cigarettes for a chicken. A can of peaches for a pair of wool socks. Here, it's not quite that formal. But you still find yourself bartering. You offer a French woman a tin of sardines for a wheel of cheese she's hoarded behind a cellar wall. She eyes you warily, then agrees. The cheese smells like old boots and victory. You devour half of it on the spot. There's no enemy in the village today. No gunfire. Just civilians trying to survive. One old man waves you over and hands you a chipped cup of something strong. You sip it. Your vision blurs slightly. You nod thanks. You don't stay long. The lieutenant says to keep moving, but you wish you could. The village smells like bread and damp stone. It's the closest thing to civilization you've felt in days. As you prepare to leave, a woman hands you a small cloth bundle. Inside, 2 slices of dark bread, a hard-boiled egg, and a sprig of rosemary. You're stunned. You nod. She nods. No words exchanged. None needed. As you walk away, You feel the bread warming your pocket like a little sun. The egg bumps against your side with every step. You wonder how long you'll keep the rosemary until the end of the war. Until it crumbles? You don't know, but you keep it close. Because even here, marching toward more gunfire, more mud, and more uncertainty, you're still allowed a moment of grace. The road out of the village curves gently uphill, bordered by low stone fences and rows of gnarled apple trees that look like they've seen centuries of storms. You march slowly, savoring the lingering warmth of the bread in your pocket and the calm of a place where nobody was trying to kill you for a few hours. That's rare. Too rare. But Normandy doesn't let you coast for long. As you reach the ridge, the wind picks up cool, steady, and carrying with it a smell that makes every stomach in the squad twist into knots. It's not gunpowder. It's not rain. It's the sour, burnt plastic tang of explosives. You all pause. Listen. The air hums with distant activity engine noise, distant cracks of gunfire, and a sharp crump that sounds a lot like artillery. The lieutenant signals you to fan out. There's another village ahead, this one smaller, nameless on your map, but not empty. Your orders are to scout, secure, and hold until further notice. So, you move in. The houses here are different. Newer, but shabbier. The shutters are still up, but half are hanging crooked, and several doors hang open like mouths mid-scream. The road is pitted with craters and strewn with debris. A bicycle lies in a ditch with one wheel still spinning lazily. Then you see them. Cows, a handful of them, wandering the main road like they own it. One has a bell that clinks softly as it steps through the rubble. You squint. They don't seem panicked, just confused, like they've been waiting for the humans to come back and refill the troughs. Then a click. A very distinct click. The kind of sound your ears learn to dread before your brain catches up. You freeze. The guy behind you doesn't. He takes one more step. Boom. It's not a huge explosion. Not cinematic. Just a short, brutal pop and a spray of dirt and flesh. The force knocks you sideways. You hit the ground hard, ears ringing. You scramble up, coughing and wiping your face. The man Sanders didn't even scream. He's just gone from the knees down. The medic's already on him, applying pressure, wrapping bandages, shouting for morphine. Sanders is conscious, pale as ash, but conscious. He keeps saying, "I didn't see it. I didn't see it." No one blames him. The lieutenant calls a halt. "Mines," he says, voice tight. "We check every step." You spend the next hour clearing the village slowly, deliberately. Every door, every alley, every suspicious patch of grass is treated like it wants to kill you. And it probably does. You prod with bayonets, mark paths with chalk, and try not to breathe too loud. Historians still argue whether German forces had time to properly booby-trap these small towns, or whether the mines were placed hastily as they retreated. All you know is this one was real. And it found Sanders. Quirky fact? Some of the mines the Germans used were made from wood, or even glass, designed to be undetectable by metal detectors. A soldier in another unit once stepped on a mine buried under a dollhouse. You heard the story last week? You didn't laugh. Eventually, the village is cleared. You settle in a barn at the far end, where the hay is dry and the roof mostly intact. You find an old oil lantern and light it carefully, watching the flame flicker. For the first time in hours, it feels like you can breathe again. Then you hear something. Voices. Not German. Not English. French. You step outside. A group of villagers is approaching from the far fields. Women, children, a few men. They move cautiously, waving white cloths. The lieutenant speaks to them briefly. Turns out they hid in the woods during the fighting. They'd been living off foraged berries and root vegetables, avoiding both sides. One woman holds a baby wrapped in a faded red blanket. The baby stares at you with comically wide eyes. You smile, then realize you look like a monster mud-slicked, rifle-strapped, stinking of sweat and gunpowder. You step back. The villagers start returning to their homes, inspecting the damage with solemn expressions. One old man walks up to the mine crater and spits into it. "Bastards," he mutters. You don't need to speak French to understand that. You give him your last ration biscuit. He nods, breaks it in half, and gives the other half to his dog. As night falls, your squad gathers inside the barn. You sit on a crate near the lantern, writing in the margins of an old field manual. You don't even know why. Just something to do. Across from you, Wilkins is snoring softly, his helmet tilted over his eyes. Martinez is fiddling with the radio, even though there's been no signal all day. Briggs plays solitaire with half a deck and one card missing. He uses a ration tin as the discard pile. Someone pulls out a harmonica. The notes are simple, slow, just a skeleton of a song. But it's enough. You lean back, let the music drift, and for just a few minutes amid the mud, the mines, the wounded, and the wandering cows, there's peace. Because sometimes, peace isn't a treaty. It's a quiet barn, a warm flame, and knowing your boots didn't hit the wrong patch of grass today, you wake before dawn, roused not by gunfire or orders, but by the faint, unmistakable sound of a church bell. It's distant, rhythmic, not a frantic alarm, not a coded warning, just a slow, measured chime. Ding, 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 ding. For a few long seconds, you think it might be a dream. Or maybe someone's banging on scrap metal for fun. But as you shuffle out of the barn, squinting at the horizon, you see it, a small stone church, just beyond the trees. The bell tower still stands, still rings. "Who's ringing it?" someone asks behind you. "Ghosts," comes the inevitable reply. You smirk. At least they're on time. The air is heavy with morning mist, thick enough to blur the line between ground and sky. Your breath clouds in front of your face as you make your way toward the sound. The village is quiet again. Too quiet. It always is after a fight like the earth holds its breath to see what you'll do next. Your boots crunch on gravel as you approach the church. It's centuries old. Stone darkened with soot and moss, its door hanging slightly ajar. You push it open and step inside. The pews are empty. The altar is cracked. Stained glass lies shattered across the floor in a kaleidoscope of sorrow. But the bell rope dangles from above, swaying gently. And then you see her. An elderly woman, grey hair pulled into a tight bun, apron stained with something long dried, sitting near the front. She looks at you, doesn't smile, doesn't speak, just nods once. She must have rung the bell. You lower your rifle. She goes back to praying, or maybe just sitting. A few other villagers trickle in behind you, some kneel, some light candles, some simply sit in silence. It's not a service. It's just being together. You slip outside, unsure if you belong in there. Back near the barn, the squad is gearing up. New orders came in via radio move south. Reinforce a unit near Saint-Lô. Another village, another hill. Another day of trying not to get shot. You shoulder your pack and fall in line. The road ahead is pockmarked and muddy, winding through fields that look peaceful from a distance, but are almost certainly laced with danger. As you walk, you hear a distant rumble. Tanks. Sherman tanks, most likely. Yours. Or at least, you hope they're yours. Then the artillery starts again. Far away on the horizon, but unmistakable. You flinch, even though it's not near. Wilkins mutters. "They never run out of shells, do they?" You don't answer. You just keep walking. A mile down the road, you find the remains of a convoy, 2 trucks blown apart, their cargo scattered like toys. One is still smouldering. The smell is unforgettable. Burnt rubber, fuel, and something else you try not to name. The lieutenant barks for caution. Everyone spreads out, rifles up. You inch forward, eyes scanning the ditch lines and nearby hedges. Nothing moves. And then movement. A figure, crawling. You rush forward and find a soldier American, barely recognizable under soot and blood. His lips are cracked, uniform shredded, eyes glassy. He reaches toward you, whispering, "There. Still there." Still where? You look up. To your left, an abandoned barn, partially collapsed. The perfect hiding spot. Your squad forms up quickly. Half flank left, you move right. The firefight is short, loud, and messy. A few German soldiers rear guard, probably fire from the upper level before retreating into the woods behind. One of your guys gets grazed, another gets the wind knocked out of him by debris. But you clear the building. Inside, among the hay and rubble, you find something unexpected. A crate of wine bottles. Intact, French, dusty, but untouched. Is it booby-trapped? Someone jokes. Only one way to find out. You don't open one, but you do carry one. Tuck it into your pack like treasure. Maybe you'll save it for Paris. Maybe you'll never open it at all. Quirky fact? After the invasion, entire Allied units started cataloguing fine wine cellars and returning the bottles to owners eventually. In the meantime, some were borrowed for morale purposes. Not officially, of course. You move on. The rest of the day blurs marching, stopping, scanning, eating a ration bar that tastes like wax and defeat, then marching again. You pass burned-out farmhouses, craters filled with rain, and a dead cow wearing a helmet someone must have put on as a joke. It's not funny anymore. By evening, you reach the outskirts of another village. A field medic greets you. We've got wounded inside. Supplies are short. Watch where you walk. You nod. You always watch where you walk now. Inside the town hall, turned makeshift triage center, the air reeks of antiseptic and fear. Cots line the walls. Moaning fills the space like static. You recognize one guy private from another unit. He grins through a bloody bandage. Told you I'd beat you to Saint-Lô. You sit next to him for a moment, just long enough to hear him fall asleep mid-sentence. Someone offers you a crust of bread. You take it, chew slowly. Outside, the church bell rings again. You close your eyes, and for the first time all day, your shoulders relax. Not because you're safe, but because somehow you're still here. You spend the night on the floor of the town hall, curled up between two crates of bandages and a broken stretcher. It's not comfortable, but it's dry, and the roof isn't leaking, and that's enough. At some point, a nurse drapes a thin blanket over your legs. You pretend to be asleep so you don't have to thank her with a voice that would only crack. You wake just before dawn to the smell of something real cooking. Not rations, not smoke, not wet wool, but something warm, fatty, and possibly edible. You follow your nose outside and find a small group of locals around a fire pit. There's a pot bubbling over the flames. One of the older women stirs it with the concentration of a scientist. The others ladle out small portions into whatever vessels they can find: helmets, mess tins, even one guy's boot. Cleaned out, you hope. You approach, wide-eyed. The woman eyes you, then nods once, and gestures to your canteen cup. You hold it out like an offering. The stew is thin, probably potatoes, onions, and broth from something that once had legs, but to you, it tastes like joy. You sit on a stoop and eat slowly. Carefully. Like if you rush, it'll disappear. Wilkins plops down next to you, holding his own tin of stew and a wheel of cheese he somehow acquired overnight. Bartered it, he says. Traded soap. You stare. 1 bar? He smirks. 2. I'm not that charming. I. You both eat in silence for a bit, watching the sunrise bleed orange over the rooftops. For a brief, impossible moment, it doesn't feel like war. And then someone yells, "Mail call!" You nearly choke. Mail? Here? A corporal with a canvas sack starts calling out names. Most soldiers crowd around like kids at Christmas, hands outstretched, eyes hopeful. A few don't move. They know better. They've stopped expecting. Your name gets called. You blink. A letter. And a package. You unwrap the box first carefully, reverently. Inside. Socks. Homemade. Still smelling faintly of lavender and cedar. There's also a tiny jar of jam, sealed with wax, and a short note. Don't let the Germans get these. Love, Mom. You laugh. Out loud. A real one. You slip off your boots and change your socks right there on the stoop. The sensation of warm, dry wool is so blissful you nearly groan. You'd trade your rifle for socks like these. Maybe not permanently, but almost. The letter is from your younger brother. He writes about baseball, school, the neighbor's annoying dog, and the new soda fountain at the corner store. His handwriting is terrible, but you read it twice anyway. Then you fold it carefully and slip it into your inner jacket pocket, next to your sister's pie drawing, and your stolen tin plate. Wilkins holds up his own envelope. My girl says she's waiting, he says. You pause. You believe her? He looks at the sky. Some days. Then someone behind you starts yelling. Everyone tenses. Hands go to rifles. But it's not enemy contact, it's laughter. Turns out, one of the guys tried to barter with a local for wine but accidentally traded for sheep cheese that's so strong it made him cry. He's sitting by the barn now, dramatically fanning his mouth, face twisted like he ate battery acid. Martinez, the radio guy, joins in the laughter, even though he hasn't said much in days. It feels good to laugh. Feels rebellious, like you're stealing something from the war. Then, from a nearby house, comes music. A battered radio someone managed to tune in. It crackles, but the tune is clear. A swing number, American. Horns and strings, and a bouncy rhythm that makes your foot start tapping before you even notice. Several soldiers start dancing badly, absurdly, mockingly. One tries to twirl his helmet like a fedora and almost knocks himself out. The locals watch with raised eyebrows, then slowly, hesitantly join in. A French girl in a patched dress dances with a medic, both of them pretending not to be terrified. You lean back against the wall, sipping from your canteen, smiling at the absurdity of it all. Historians still argue whether these moments of levity, the dancing, the jokes, the improvised concerts were morale-building or simply coping mechanisms. You're pretty sure it's both. And either way, they matter. Later, as the music fades and the fire burns low, someone suggests trading again. This time, not just food or socks, but stories. A local farmer, missing 2 teeth but fluent in mime, reenacts his hiding spot during the invasion, behind a pig, under a broken wine barrel. He grunts. Everyone laughs. Wilkins tells a wildly exaggerated tale of punching a German officer during the landing. Single-handedly ended the war, he claims. No one believes him, but everyone cheers anyway. Then it's your turn. You start with the truth mud, mines, missed meals, but end with a story about a cow that ate someone's helmet liner and refused to give it back. It's not even yours, but it gets a laugh. Quirky tidbit? Soldiers on both sides reported animals doing bizarre things during the invasion, goats wandering into trenches, chickens refusing to leave supply tents, one dog who allegedly led an entire platoon to safety after sniffing out a minefield. No one's sure if that part's true. But in this war, even rumors of hero dogs are a kind of medicine. As the night deepens and the fire dies, you pull out your rosemary sprig, the one from the village, and set it gently beside your helmet. It still smells faintly like hope, and when you lie down, socks warm, belly full, letters folded in your chest pocket, you sleep. Not deeply, but enough. By now, you know better than to expect peace 2 mornings in a row. You're halfway through your second handful of crushed cracker, because let's not pretend it qualifies as breakfast when the mortar hits. It doesn't land near you. Not exactly. But it's close enough to rattle your bones and send the tin cup in your hand flying. You hit the dirt instinctively, pressing your face to the cold stone of the courtyard, crumbs still in your mouth, rifle already clutched tight. Positions, the lieutenant shouts. They're shelling from the west. And just like that, the church bell's serenity, the letters from home, the dancing, the cheese, all of it vanishes into a scream of panic and dust. Another crump closer this time. You see the explosion before you hear it. A roof down the street lifts into the air like a magician's trick, then collapses in a choking burst of brick and splinters. You scramble toward cover, a low garden wall, still damp with dew. You slam your back against it, breath shallow, eyes darting. The sound of the bells is gone now, drowned beneath the sudden chorus of shouting, whistling metal, and the staccato crack of rifles. Mortars again. 2, maybe 3. The Germans aren't launching a full attack, just reminding you they're still watching, still close, still capable of ruining breakfast. Then comes the real problem. The spotter. You see him through a gap in the wall, just a flicker of movement in the trees. A figure with binoculars, signaling to someone farther back. That's how they're so accurate. He's calling in every shell like a chef seasoning soup, just enough to rattle you, never enough to waste too much spice. Wilkins sees it too. "We gotta move," he hisses. "So you, though." The squad splits, half flanking right, the other half laying down suppressing fire. You stay low, knees and palms soaked in mud as you push through a narrow alley choked with weeds and broken glass. Then comes the rush out of cover, across the open space, into the trees. It's chaos. Leaves shred around you. Someone's yelling. Someone else is bleeding. You don't have time to look. You find the spotter. You think it's the same one. You raise your rifle. He turns. Young. Terrified. German uniform. maybe 16. You pull the trigger. Your shoulder jerks. The echo cracks like a whip through the woods. He drops. No ceremony. No slow collapse. Just down. You lower your rifle. Don't move. Wilkins walks up, breathless. Was that him? You nod. He puts a hand on your shoulder, says nothing. Then walks past, checking the small ridge for more. You stay there a moment longer, staring at the body. There's a notebook clutched in his hand. Coordinates, probably. You don't take it. Let someone else grab that. Eventually, you return to the village. The shelling has stopped. The damage is real, but miraculously few are hurt. The house that took the worst of it was empty. A crate of soap went up in flames, sending lavender-scented smoke drifting through the square like some cruel joke. Martinez shakes his head as he surveys the rubble. You ever think we'll go a whole day without getting shelled? Wilkins answers, not in this zip code. Then he looks confused. Wait, do they have zip codes in France? You laugh. Briefly, just once. That's enough. The squad regroups, and the lieutenant informs you that a convoy is en route with resupply. You're to hold position, reinforce the west perimeter, and help locals evacuate before another round comes in. So, you do. You help an old man wrap his valuables in a threadbare quilt, mostly photographs, one cracked teacup, and a rusted pocket watch he won't let go of. You carry an elderly woman who insists on wearing heels. For dignity, she says in perfect English. Always dignity. Oh. You load a wounded dog missing an ear but still wagging its tail into the back of a cart headed for the next town over. Quirky fact? Dogs became unofficial mascots in many units. One paratrooper regiment had a terrier named Chips who allegedly chased enemy scouts into a farmhouse. No medals were issued, but plenty of belly rubs. By late afternoon the sky clears. Sunlight returns like nothing happened. You hate how the weather keeps doing that, shining cheerfully after destruction, like a host trying to reset the dinner party after a screaming match. You sit near the courtyard again, eating the rest of your jam on a piece of ration biscuit. It tastes better than it should. Then you hear the engine. A single motorcycle American, olive drab, dented pulls into view, dust trailing behind. The rider dismounts, throws a sloppy salute, and hands off a folded paper. Updated map, he says, and news. You gather around. The paper's a field report, dense with typewriter font, dotted with grease stains. But two words catch everyone's eye. Paris holds. You stare. It's not victory. Not yet. But it's a direction. The lieutenant nods slowly. Means we keep pushing. Someone says, You think we'll get there? Another answers, If we don't step on anything first. You chuckle. Barely. The sun dips low. Shadows stretch across the stone walls. You roll your shoulders, adjust your helmet, and clean your rifle one more time. Because tomorrow, it starts again. But tonight, the sky's still clear, and the church bell rings one more time. Not for morning, just because someone remembered it was there. You hit the road before first light, moving in a column that's more stumble than stride. The path ahead is churned to sludge by tank treads and endless boots, and your own steps squish like wet sponges. You're pretty sure your socks are plotting your murder. Again. The orders are straightforward. Rendezvous with a tank battalion pushing towards Saint-Lô. Straightforward, of course, being military code for impossibly unclear with a strong chance of sudden explosions. As you march, the countryside shifts. Fewer hedgerows now, more open fields dotted with hay bales and charred farm equipment. Trees stand like skeletons on the horizon, leafless despite the season. You pass a wooden cart half buried in the ditch, one wheel still turning, creaking softly like it's trying to remember something. Nobody speaks much. You're too tired for banter, too sore for storytelling. Wilkins does hum, though, quietly, something off-key and vaguely familiar. You think it might be, "You are my sunshine." Or maybe he's just making it up. Martinez walks beside him, radio on his back, occasionally fiddling with the dial, even though you know it hasn't picked up anything but static in hours. Your hands ache from gripping your rifle too long, but you don't dare sling it, not here, not now. Not when the fields ahead feel like they're holding their breath. You stop for a break near a toppled stone wall. Everyone drops to the ground like felled trees, limbs sprawled wherever gravity throws them. You dig through your pack for something edible, and find what might be the last chunk of that village cheese. It's harder now. Smells stronger. You eat it anyway. Tastes like foot, but at least it's warm foot. Wilkins pulls out a harmonica and plays 3 notes before someone groans. Save it for the victory parade. He shrugs and puts it away. Then the rumble starts. You feel it in your boots first, low, growling, hungry. Tanks. A column of Shermans rolls into view, cresting the hill like metal dinosaurs. Mud clings to their sides like battle paint, and the men riding them look just as worn out as you feel. One throws a wave. You lift a hand in reply, fingers barely responding. The lieutenant talks to their CO. You catch snippets. High ground, push forward, resistance expected. Your job? Scout the road ahead. Of course it is. You push forward with your squad, cutting west across a field that was once somebody's farm. You can still see the outlines of rows where crops once grew. Now it's all flattened, burned, forgotten. The only thing still standing is a single scarecrow shirt flapping in the breeze, head half melted by fire. Someone jokes. He's got better posture than me. You laugh, softly, mostly because it's true. The road ahead narrows between 2 shallow ridges just high enough to funnel movement into a choke point. You all know what that means. Ambush territory. You go slow. Real slow. Eyes up. Heads low. And then you see it. Not the enemy, but the wire. Thin. Almost invisible. Stretched ankle high across the path. Booby trap. You freeze. A single word passes back through the squad. Hold. The engineer comes forward. He kneels, inspects it, follows it into the brush. Then he mutters, bingo. It's connected to a mortar shell. Crude setup, but deadly. He disables it with fingers steadier than anyone should have in a place like this. You all breathe again. And then just as you're about to move on, gunfire erupts from the left ridge. You hit the dirt. Bullets snap overhead like angry hornets. Dirt kicks into your eyes. You blink furiously, fumbling for your rifle. Contact left, someone shouts. You roll behind a stump and return fire, blind, just trying to keep them down. The firefight escalates fast. Muzzle flashes light up the ridge. Someone tosses a grenade uphill, it bounces. Explodes, silencing one rifle but drawing more. You inch forward. The others follow. It's muddy, exposed, chaotic. Then a tank shell whistles in from behind yours, thankfully, and detonates just above the ridge. A chunk of earth lifts into the air and lands with a thud 10 yards to your right. The German fire stops. Silence returns, broken only by the high-pitched whine in your ears. You crawl up the ridge to confirm. 2 German soldiers lie still. One breathes, barely. You call for the medic. The other doesn't move. You find his pack. Inside, a photo of a woman and 2 kids. You close it and tuck it back. Wilkins climbs up beside you, panting. Wasn't even noon yet, he says. Nope, you reply. Historians still debate whether these kinds of skirmishes, small, brutal, barely reported, mattered much in the grand scale of the war. You know better. Every one of them mattered to the people in them. You secure the ridge, wave the tanks forward, and rest in the shallow crater left by the shell. The earth here is warm from the blast. You almost drift off. Then someone hands you a tin of meat spread, unopened. You earned it, they say. You nod, pop the lid, and take a bite. Still tastes like war, but also just a little like survival. You don't move for a long time. The crater makes surprisingly decent shelter, rounded edges, low profile, packed earth walls. Not quite homey, but solid. You and Wilkins sit there like kids in a dirt bathtub, legs splayed, rifles across your laps, chewing in silence. You pass the meat tin back and forth. It's labelled pork product. Not pork, not ham, not even mystery meat with flair. Just product. You'd kill for mustard. You'd commit war crimes for mustard. Eventually, the order comes to dig in. Again, you sigh. Of course. Every time you stop moving, you dig. Doesn't matter if it's for an hour or overnight. You grab your entrenching tool and begin carving out a proper foxhole next to the crater. The dirt's still warm from the shelling, and every scoop sticks to your gloves like peanut butter. Around you, the others do the same. It's a grim ritual now, this dance of digging and settling, as if you're planting yourself like a potato and hoping the Germans forget to harvest. Wilkins mutters, I swear when I get home I'm never touching a shovel again. If I drop something in my yard, it's gone forever. You snort. They'll name a trench after you. Wilkins Gulch. Future tourists will fall in it. He groans. They better put a plaque. The foxhole is deep enough, after an hour. You crawl into it, adjust your pack as a makeshift pillow, and breathe. The clouds above are thin today, just wisps across a pale sky. Birds are circling in lazy loops. You close your eyes and let the world go soft. A few yards away, someone's tuning a radio. Static. More static. Then, briefly, music. Tinny, warbling some American swing number, but clear enough to hum to. Then it cuts out again. Martinez bangs the side of the unit like it insulted his mother. You lean back, resting your head against the damp wall of your hole, and exhale slowly. You didn't get much sleep last night, or the night before, or any night really. But right now there's no gunfire, no screaming. Just the wind, the dirt, and the low murmur of exhausted soldiers trying to remember what peace even feels like. You drift off. Sort of. It's more like blinking for long stretches, your mind wandering in half-coherent loops. You dream maybe of the grocery store back home. You're in the canned goods aisle, searching for peaches. Every tin you open is full of sand. The store clerk is your drill sergeant. No one wears pants. You wake with a snort. Rain starting again, light, persistent. Normandy doesn't do sunny spells, just breaks between damp spells. You cover the top of your foxhole with your poncho and curl tighter into yourself. Wilkins throws you half of a ration chocolate bar. You catch it with wet fingers. Dinner, he says. It's barely edible, but it's the best thing you've tasted all day. You nibble while watching the tanks in the field below. They're parked for now, engines silent, crews scattered. One guy is shaving using the rearview mirror. Another is writing in a notebook, his boots hanging out the side hatch like he's sunbathing. One tank has a name painted on the side. Betsy Sue. Pink lettering. Clearly someone used lipstick. Quirky fact, naming tanks was common among Allied units. Some were sentimental Betsy, Patricia, Mama's Boy. Others were pure comedy. Serial Heartbreaker, The Rolling Thunder, or your personal favourite, Nazi Puncher Deluxe. You wonder what you'd name yours. Maybe Dry Socks, or Canteen Full of Bourbon. You hear footsteps. The sergeant appears, drenched, mud-caked, as always. He leans over your foxhole. New orders. Command says we're staying here for at least 2 nights. Holding this road. You blink. We're staying? He nods. Yeah, welcome to your new living room. 2 nights in one place. Unheard of. He moves on. You settle deeper into your foxhole, trying to process the idea of relative stillness. Later, someone starts boiling water in a helmet. You don't ask what it's for, just that it smells vaguely like coffee and wood smoke. They offer you a sip. It tastes like metal and memories, but it's warm. That's what matters. You pull your jacket tighter. As night falls, you write in your notebook again. Not a letter, just notes. Fragments. Sentences that may or may not make sense later. Asterisk Wilkins still has the cheese. Probably illegal now. Asterisk rain sounds different in a foxhole. Asterisk. I can't remember what my front door looks like. You stop after that one. Then you hear it. A whistle. Soft. Rhythmic. Almost a lullaby. It's not German. Not a signal. Just a tune. Someone in another foxhole, whistling quietly in the dark. You close your eyes and listen. The rain keeps falling. The tanks sit quiet. Your foxhole stays shallow but steady. And for one night, at least, nothing comes. The rain doesn't stop. By morning, your foxhole is officially a bathtub again, cold, muddy, and actively plotting against your feet. You wake up with your knees to your chest and your rifle tucked under your chin like it's the world's most depressing teddy bear. Wilkins pokes his head over the edge, looking like a swamp creature. We're all going to evolve gills if this keeps up. You groan. Too late. I'm pretty sure I coughed up a frog. Still, the news is weirdly good. There's word of movement up the line. St. Lo might be close. The tanks are prepping to roll. And best of all, you're not walking today. Not marching. not dodging mines or scanning tree lines. You're pushing a tank. That's right, pushing a tank. Betsy Sue, remember her? Lipstick lettering, shaved in the mirror guy, she's stuck in a ditch at the edge of the field. Mud, weight, and the universe have conspired to trap 30 tons of American steel in a rut that laughs at traction. Your squad is assigned to assist in recovery. Translation: put your back into it. You line up at the rear, shoulders braced against metal that's colder than your heart. Rain patters on your helmet. Someone yells, "Push on 3." You don't wait for 3. Because the tank engine roars, the tracks spin, and suddenly your boots are skating through mud like it's amateur hour at the roller rink. Everyone's grunting, sliding, cursing. You're sure someone falls. Maybe 2 people. You lose feeling in your right sock. Then, ka-chunk. The tank lurches free, its treads catching at last. You all stumble back, soaked, filthy, triumphant. The driver pops out of the hatch and throws a thumbs up. You respond with a single, slow middle finger. He laughs and tosses down a candy bar in apology. You fight over it. Eventually, it ends in 4 pieces and a truce. Quirky bit of trivia? More tanks were lost to mud, ditches, and mechanical failure in Normandy than to enemy fire during the first month. The term non-combat casualty applies to vehicles too. Betsy Sue's misadventure? Not unique. But yours now. With the tank back in play, the squad regroups under a makeshift tarp, just a poncho strung between 2 rifles. It smells like wet canvas and crushed hopes, but it's something. You share stories to pass the time. Martinez tells one about a sergeant who accidentally radioed a recipe for cornbread instead of coordinates. His unit still got the supplies. Someone else brings up the phantom Frenchman, an alleged ghost soldier in an overcoat who shows up after every skirmish, only to vanish before anyone gets his name. Wilkins says if he sees a ghost, he's asking it to swap boots. You talk about home, about baseball and movie theaters, and the weird smell of bowling alleys, about the weird cousin who insists ketchup belongs on eggs, about missing birthdays, and the fact that you'd give anything to be bored again. Then you sit in silence for a while, letting the rain hit the tarp in steady rhythms. Eventually, you're told to start prepping defensive positions around the tank group. Sandbags, barbed wire, maybe a foxhole or 2, just in case. Just in case always means definitely soon. So you die. Again, Wilkins pretends to take measurements. I'm going to start charging rent for these holes. Build a bed and breakfast. Call it the Mud Inn. You dig faster, not for safety, out of spite. By afternoon, the sky finally breaks. A sliver of sun cuts through the clouds like someone got tired of the filter settings. The field warms slightly. Steam rises off tank hulls. You take off your helmet for just a minute and let your scalp breathe. It feels illegal. Then the lieutenant calls for a check on the perimeter. You volunteer. You move along the edge of the woods near the camp, scanning for movement, mines, trouble. But all you find is quiet. And a fox. A real one. It darts out from a bush, freezes when it sees you, and tilts its head. You lower your rifle. The fox blinks slowly, then turns and trots off into the trees. You wonder if animals know what this is, if they feel it, or if they're just trying to survive like you. You head back to camp, passing the tanks. Someone's drawn a pin-up girl, in chalk on the side of one. She's crooked, missing a hand, and the face is just 2 dots and a smile, but still. Art. In a war zone. It feels like rebellion. Historians still argue whether morale came more from victories or from little rituals like this: chalk drawings, shared cigarettes, dumb jokes. You already know the answer. That evening, your foxhole is somehow even wetter than this morning. You try to bail it out with your helmet, which is as effective as yelling at the rain to stop. Eventually, you give up and lay down anyway. Wet. Again. Forever. You pull your poncho over your face and breathe slowly. And despite it all, you smile. Because for once, the tanks are with you. Your socks are technically dry. And no one died today. There's a moment, just before dawn, when the world holds its breath. You're lying in your foxhole, wrapped in your poncho like a human burrito, and everything is still. No wind, no shouting, no gunfire. Even the rain has stopped for now. Just the soft hiss of mist rising off the earth and the occasional snore from a nearby soldier who clearly didn't get the memo that he's supposed to be paranoid. It's quiet. Too quiet. You hear Wilkins whisper, "I hate this kind of quiet. It's like the sky's waiting to punch me." You grunt. The sky already punched us. Repeatedly. We're the ones still trying to stand back up. There's a rustle, then the sound of a tin being pried open. "You want half a biscuit?" You nod. It's probably stale enough to chip teeth, but it's food. You split the biscuit like it's sacred, chewing slowly as the mist lifts, revealing the wreckage of the field you're still pretending is a base. The tanks are just silhouettes now, hulking beasts in the fog, each one streaked with mud and stubborn defiance. Then Martinez joins you. He flops into the edge of your foxhole, boots hanging off the side, and mutters, "What day is it?" Wilkins says, "Thursday." You say, "Tuesday." Martinez nods, satisfied. That narrows it down. You all sit in silence for a while, chewing and blinking at the not quite sunrise. Then Martinez drops this philosophical grenade. "You think time's slower here? Or faster?" It's a genuine question. You consider it. In some ways, the days crawl. Minutes stretch like old gum. You can't believe how long each patrol lasts, how much waiting there is between each fight. But then, you blink, and a week's passed. You haven't bathed, haven't changed your socks, haven't written a letter home in 3 days. Or was it 5? Wilkins shrugs. Time just doesn't work here. Normandy broke clocks. You think he's right. Historians still argue about whether soldiers in World War II experienced time differently due to stress and trauma. You don't need research. You live it. Time here is elastic, stretching and snapping like a rubber band that's always about to break. Later that morning, you get your first real mission in, over 48 hours. Night patrol. Not now tonight, which means all day to prepare. Or more accurately, all day to dread it. Night patrols are the worst. In daylight, at least you can see what might kill you. At night, every bush is a rifle, every tree stump, a tiger tank. Your ears lie to you. Your own footsteps betray you. You hold your breath so long your lungs file complaints. Wilkins sums it up best. It's like playing hide and seek, but everyone has guns, and you can't win. You spend the afternoon doing what soldiers always do between chaos, pretending the next thing won't happen. Some clean their gear. Others write letters, sharpen bayonets, nap badly. You finally change your shirt. It's stiff, streaked with grime, and smells like suffering. The new one isn't clean exactly, just less disgusting. It still feels like a spa day. Someone starts trading socks again. It's a whole underground economy now. A dry pair goes for 2 chocolate bars and a half can of peaches. Martinez trades one of his gloves for a book with 2 missing chapters. The quiet is broken once, when a truck rolls through supplies. It kicks up dust and morale. You snag a tin of peaches. The good kind, not the with added mystery syrup kind. You share them. You always share. That night, you prep for the patrol. It's just 4 of you. Small group, low profile. You blacken your face, check your weapon, strap your gear tight. The medic hands out morphine just in case, and no one jokes. Not now. Your path leads through a stretch of woods that may or may not still have enemy scouts. The goal: recon a crossroads, leave a marker for the tanks, and return without dying. Simple. You move like shadows. Not talking, no lights. Just the crunch of leaves under boots, and the soft click of metal against metal. You wince every time your canteen sloshes, even though it's nearly empty. The woods feel alive. Branches creak like whispering mouths. Owls hoot with suspicious timing. Every gust of wind makes you flinch. Then movement. You freeze. A shape shifts ahead. You raise your rifle, finger on the trigger, heart pounding, pulse deafening. It's a deer. Just a deer. It stares at you, motionless, then bounds off into the darkness with the grace of someone who has never held a gun or stepped on a mine. You release the breath you didn't know you were holding. The rest of the patrol goes off without incident. You mark the crossroads. No contact, no ambush. Just nerves. You make it back just before dawn, soaked in sweat and adrenaline. The lieutenant nods. Good work. You collapse into your foxhole, too tired to speak. Wilkins grins. See anything out there? You shake your head. Just a deer. He nods. Hope you told him we're not invading his country. You laugh. Once. And then you sleep. Deeply. Because even shadows need rest. Rain again. Not a storm, just that drizzly, insistent Normandy kind of rain that seeps into everything. It doesn't fall. It clings. Your helmet is slick. Your rifle's damp. The seat of your pants hasn't been dry in 3 days. You wake up still sore from night patrol. Your shoulder aches from carrying gear in silence for hours, and your legs feel like they've been replaced with 2 bags of cement. But you made it back. That's what matters. Wilkins, of course, looks like he's been up for hours. He's poking at a cold ration tin with a stick, like he's trying to summon fire through sheer irritation. Why do they call this meat when it's clearly wet cardboard dressed up in gravy? You lean over the edge of your foxhole. Don't insult cardboard. He offers you a bite. You accept it, because shame hasn't existed here for weeks. The squad is in that low-gear mood today. No one talks unless they have to. Everyone's moving slower, quieter. You can tell the long haul's wearing on them. Even the sergeant isn't barking as much, just watching the tree line like he expects it to blink. Around midday, someone passes around letters. You don't get one this time. Neither does Martinez. Wilkins does, though. He doesn't open it right away, just stares at it, then tucks it in his breast pocket like he's afraid of what it might say. Later, you catch him reading it alone behind a stack of crates. He wipes his face after. Doesn't say why. You don't ask. The mail, the silence, the rain, it all adds to the weight of the day. When rations arrive, they come with a surprise. Hardtack biscuits and a tiny tin of powdered lemonade. You laugh. This war just became a picnic. Wilkins mixes the powder with water from his canteen. The result tastes like metal and lemon's ghost, but still lemonade. Quirky fact? In the early days of the invasion, US rations included small pouches of powdered drink mix to keep morale up. Soldiers joked it tasted like melted crayon. You're not sure that's wrong. Later in the afternoon, the sun finally peeks through. Not for long, just enough to steam the mud and remind you that colors other than green and brown still exist. You sit against the side of your foxhole and let the light warm your face. For 10 whole minutes, no one speaks. It's bliss. Then comes the scariest phrase in the army. Hey, we need volunteers. You don't move. No one does. Eventually, they pick 3 names at random. Yours is one of them. The job? Delivering fresh rations and ammo to a forward unit a few miles out. Not a major mission, but one that involves crossing territory with questionable security. You gear up. Wilkins pats your shoulder. If you find a peach can, bring it back. I'll trade you half a sock. You smirk. Front or back half? Dealer's choice. The route is rough. You travel in a small convoy. 2 jeeps, 1 half-track, all loaded with crates that rattle like bones. The road is narrow, flanked by low stone walls and tall grass that whispers like gossip. At one point, you pass a broken-down cart with chickens pecking at spilled grain. One of them hops up onto the hood of your jeep and rides there for a good 100 yards before fluttering off like royalty. You reach the forward position late afternoon. The men there are huddled in dugouts that look worse than yours. One has a broken umbrella strung over his foxhole like a sad parasol. Another has drawn a mustache on his helmet and insists on being called Captain Fancy. You hand out the crates. They cheer at the sight of dry socks and peanut butter. One guy kisses a tin of beans. You stay for a bit long enough to swap stories, refill your canteen, and hear that yes, the Germans are still nearby. Still probing. Still watching. One soldier points to the woods. They were out there last night. We could hear them breathing. You nod. That tracks. Historians still debate how close enemy forces were during this phase of the Normandy campaign. Patrol reports, diary entries, even local rumours vary wildly. You suspect the truth is simpler. They were always closer than you thought. You head back before dusk, bouncing along the muddy trail as the convoy lumbers home. The sun dips behind the hills. Shadows stretch across the road. You grip your rifle tighter, scanning every fence post, every tree stump, every flicker of movement. You make it back just as the first stars appear. Wilkins is waiting. You toss him a tin of peaches. He holds it like it's made of gold, then hands you half a sock. You both laugh. It's dumb. It's perfect. You crawl into your foxhole, curl into your poncho and take one bite of those peaches before sealing the rest for tomorrow. Because out here, you learn to stretch good things. The stars blink overhead, and for one quiet night, with fruit in your belly and laughter still lingering, you sleep better than you should. The stars are still visible when you wake. That's the first good sign. The second is that your poncho didn't leak. The third? No one's screaming. That's as good a start as any in Normandy. You stretch, bones popping like a rusty hinge, and glance over at Wilkins. He's snoring softly, clutching the can of peaches like a teddy bear. His half sock, your half sock now, apparently rests folded under his helmet. You smile, just a little. The morning is cold, but mercifully dry. Fog drifts through the trees like shy ghosts, curling around your boots as you lace them up and crunch your way toward the field kitchen, a term you use generously. It's really just a stove under a tarp, manned by a guy named Jules, who always smells like onions and cynicism. Jules ladles something into your tin. "Oatmeal," he says. You stare at the lumpy beige mass. "You sure?" He shrugs. "Ish." You sit on a crate and eat the ish, grateful for the warmth if not the flavor. The lieutenant shows up mid-chew with news. Your squad's going on another night patrol. Tonight. Again. Wilkins groans. What is this? A punch card system? The LT doesn't laugh. Day shift, he says, is prepping defenses. Night shift recon. We're the night. You nod. Of course you are. You spend the day half distracted checking gear, relacing boots, cleaning your rifle, even though it's already spotless. Everyone does it. It's like pacing in place. You try not to think about the sun setting. You try. Around midday, the ammo detail drops off new magazines. And by new, you mean slightly less grimy. One guy in the back's handing out pencils like he's working a school fundraiser. For your pocket, he says. Just in case. Just in case what, you ask? He shrugs. You feel like writing your memoir in the dark. Martinez sharpens his pencil to a dagger-like point and sticks it behind his ear like a poet-turned-assassin. He hasn't spoken much lately, but he's still sharp. Still there. The hours crawl. You nibble on half of a hard biscuit. Think about saving the rest for later, then eat it anyway. There's no point rationing despair. Eventually, someone pulls out a deck of cards. A few rounds of poker start up with matches as currency. Someone tries to bet half a can of meat spread and gets laughed out of the foxhole. You don't play. Your mind's already turning to shadows. You check the patrol route, mapped roughly in charcoal, on the back of a K-ration box. You'll move through a ravine near a ridge, cross an open field, then sweep the edge of a copse suspected of housing a forward observer. Suspected is doing a lot of work there. Quirky detail? The ravine is apparently called La Gorge au Loup. The locals say it means wolf's throat. Sounds cozy. You gear up again. Same drill. Blackened faces, no lights, quiet movement. Just you, Martinez, Wilkins, and one guy from another squad you've never met, Bennett maybe, or Barrett. He has a crooked nose and a knife strapped to his thigh. You head out as the sun bleeds behind the hills. The forest swallows you whole. At first, all you hear is boots on damp leaves, breath in your own ears, the occasional soft click of metal buckles. Then even those sounds seem too loud. The ravine lives up to its name, narrow, damp, lined with moss-covered stone and dripping branches. It feels like a throat. You duck low and move single file, every step calculated, every shadow suspicious. Wilkins whispers, I swear if a wolf actually jumps out, I'm surrendering immediately. You don't respond. Too busy watching the trees. Up the other side, you reach the field. Open. Flat. Probably quiet, because no one in their right mind would walk across it at night. Which is why you're here. You take it slow. Step by step. You count them 37 from the ravine's edge to the tree line. Each one feels like a dare. At step nintin, you freezer. A sound. Not loud. Just wrong. A twig snapping. Deliberate. Martinez freezes beside you. You exchange a glance. No words. You crouch. Wet. Nothing. You move again. Step 20. Step 21. Another snap. Closer. Then movement. You drop to your stomach, heart hammering, rifle up. A figure slips between trees. Too fast to get a clear shot. Wilkins whispers, 1 o'clock. Close. You nod. Then just for a second you hear it. The scrape of metal. Like someone shifting a rifle sling 10 yards away. You gesture. Martinez pulls a grenade. Not a frag too loud. Smoke. He throws. Poof! A puff. A hiss. Then swirling fog cloaks the woods. You move. Fast. Quiet. No shots fired. Whoever was there slips back deeper into the brush. You don't pursue. That's not your job. You mark the position on your map, circle wide, then double back to the ridge. Mission complete. Observer likely present. No contact confirmed. No casualties. That's a win. You move home fast. Too fast, maybe. But no one stops you. The base is just where you left it. Muddy. Miserable. Still yours. Wilkins collapses into his foxhole. I hate trees. I hate France. I hate being able to hear my own heartbeat. You agree on all counts. The sergeant debriefs you. You hand over the crude sketch. He nods, says, "Get some rest. You'll be moving again tomorrow." Of course you will. You climb into your hole. Still damp, still cold, but safe. You sleep. And this time, no wolves. When you wake, it's to the unmistakable scent of gunpowder. Not fresh, just faint, like someone reheated last night's firefight. The air is thick and still. No wind, no birdsong. The kind of silence that presses on your ears and makes your skin itch. You sit up slowly, joints stiff, every muscle protesting like a union on strike. Wilkins is already up, crouched at the edge of the foxhole, chewing something that looks suspiciously like raw oatmeal. He nods in your direction. "Sleep well, princess?" You rub your eyes. "Dreamt about breakfast, then I remembered I was awake." Someone calls for formation. Another patrol? Another recon run? Nope. You're pulling guard duty at the supply line, watching crates. Boxes. The army, in its infinite wisdom, has decided that your squad is best suited to making sure no one steals 500 pounds of canned beans and rubber boots. It's boring, which, after the last few nights, feels suspiciously like heaven. You're stationed just off a bend in the road, where a makeshift depot has taken shape. Tents flap in the breeze that finally showed up. Crates are stacked high, labelled in thick stenciled letters. Ammunition, rations, main decal, soap. The soap gets its own guard. No joke. "Apparently," says Martinez, "some guys have been trading soap for wine again. One bar gets you a dinner invite in the next village over." You and Wilkins decide to investigate this soap situation. Not to steal it, just to appreciate it. Maybe smell it. Maybe remember what being clean feels like. The guard? A kid from Iowa who looks like he's still got peach fuzz under his helmet eyes you both suspiciously. You point to a bar and say, "That's the real currency of the war, right there." He nods solemnly. "I'd trade my rifle for a bar of lavender." You return to your post. Boredom sets in quickly. You pass the time by stacking rocks into a miniature fortress and pretending it's General Patton's command base. Wilkins names each stone after a general. One of them is Rocky McMapperson, and you agree he probably commands artillery. It's peaceful. Absurdly peaceful. So much so that you almost forget where you are until the smoke drifts in. It's light at first, just a thin grey thread in the sky. Then a whiff of burning wood. Then more. Within minutes, someone shouts, "Fire!" You spin toward the tree line, where a patch of forest near the depot is billowing smoke. Not shell fire, just fire. Someone must have been cooking too close to a crate of rags, or maybe the sun finally decided to set something ablaze for fun. You and your squad run toward it, grabbing buckets, canteens, whatever you can find. Water's scarce, so is time. It's not a massive blaze yet, but in this dry underbrush, it could become one in minutes. Flames lick at tree roots and crawl up the low shrubs like they've been waiting for permission. You work fast, stamping out the edges, smothering embers with dirt. Martinez finds a shovel and starts tossing earth like a man possessed. The crates get moved first. The ammo, the rations, the soap is last. You don't know if that's strategic or just poetic. In 30 minutes, it's out. Smoke lingers, black and greasy. Your face is streaked with ash. Your shirt is scorched at the sleeve. Wilkins coughs and says, All that for canned ham and tactical deodorant. You sit down hard on a crate labeled bandages, gauze, and stare at your boots, now caked in a whole new kind of grime. Then from behind you, thanks. You turn. It's the Iowa kid. He's holding out a bar of soap. Lavender. You blink. He shrugs. You earned it. You take it. Not because you need it, but because it smells like memory. You pass it to Wilkins. He sniffs, eyes wide. Holy, this actually smells like something nice. You break the bar in two, and each keep a piece in your pack. You swear it warms your whole kit just being in there. Quirky historical detail? Soldiers often scented their letters home with soap or cologne, anything to mask the reality of trench stink. One guy even sent his mother a bar wrapped in a note. This is the only flower I've seen all month. Back at camp, the fire's mostly forgotten. The depot is reorganized. A new crate arrives, marked tooth powder, mint. You're tempted to ask if anyone remembers how to smile. Later, at sunset, a truck rolls in carrying fresh bread. Actual. Fresh. Bread. The cook slices it on a wooden board and hands out chunks like Holy Communion. Crusty, still warm, faintly dusted with flour. You take a bite. It's the first thing you've eaten in weeks that doesn't taste like despair. Wilkins mumbles. If this is a hallucination, don't wake me up. Oh. You sit on a crate under the dusky pink sky, lavender soap in your pocket, warm bread in your hand, and for once nothing shooting at you. It doesn't feel like a break in the war. It feels like you stepped outside of it for just a few breaths. And that's enough. Rumors start the next morning. They always start the same way, quiet, half-whispered, with a strange mix of hope and cynicism. Did you hear? This time it's, the Germans are pulling back, for real. You hear it over cold coffee, the kind that tastes like boiled regret. The corporal passing the info isn't even sure where he heard it. Could have been a runner, he says, or a guy from 82nd, or my cousin. Who knows? Wilkins raises a skeptical eyebrow. You sure this isn't like the time you said Eisenhower got a puppy? The corporal grins. He did get a puppy. Probably. Still, the mood lifts. You feel it like a change in pressure, an almost electric energy buzzing around the camp. Nobody dares say anything too optimistic, but everyone moves a little faster. Jokes land more easily. Even Martinez smirks once, which is basically a full laugh by his standards. But then comes the counter-whisper. If they're pulling back, they're setting traps. And just like that, the tension snaps back into place like a rubber band across your ribs. Your unit is reassigned to road security clearing routes, checking for mines and making sure the retreat isn't a giant baited hook. Because in Normandy, everything is a trap until proven otherwise. The road in question is barely more than a rut between fields, overgrown and crumbling. A few tire tracks suggest others came before you, but not recently. You move slowly, eyes scanning the edges for wires, disturbed dirt, or that classic, something's not quite right, feeling in your gut. And then you see it. A body, German, young, propped against a fence post like a scarecrow, helmet tipped forward, arms limp. You freeze. Wilkins mutters, "Mine?" Martinez nods. "Probably. Could be booby-trapped. Or just a message." You approach with caution. The lieutenant has the engineers sweep the area before getting closer. Turns out, he's not wired. Just dead, clutching a rusted harmonica. It's still looped around his neck, like he was playing it when the end came. The sergeant says, "Mark it. Leave him. We'll send the burial crew later." You walk past quietly. Nobody speaks for at least 20 minutes. Eventually, you hit the next fork. An old stone well sits at the junction, the kind with a wooden bucket and crank. A faded sign hangs above it, scorched by fire but still legible in French. Pray for the lost. You nod at it in passing. That feels appropriate. You stop for lunch if lunch means gnawing on a piece of jerky that's older than your enlistment and drinking canteen water that smells like tin. But at least it's peaceful. Until someone says, "Hey, where's Martinez?" Everyone freezes. He was just here. You fan out quickly, scanning the hedgerows, the ditch, the old stone wall at the edge of the field. The tension hits fast, sharp, electric. Then you hear it, a whisper of movement. and his voice calm but firm. Over here. He's crouched behind a bush, hand raised. You move slowly toward him, and then you see it. A tripwire, tied to a cooking pot. Not a mine, something worse. Improvised explosives grenades, strung up with string, glass, and nails. Had he taken one more step, he'd have set it off. You all stare at it, breath caught. Wilkins exhales. That's creative. Homemade, Martinez says. Tricky. You call in the engineer. He diffuses it with practiced fingers and a muttered, "They're getting desperate." Historians still argue whether the retreating forces in Normandy used more improvised devices out of strategy or sheer necessity. You've seen enough to believe it was both. The rest of the road check goes quietly, too quietly. You find one more trap near a collapsed barn, then nothing. No enemy fire, no resistance. Just the eerie sense that someone's watching from somewhere you can't see. That night, back at camp, you sit around a fire made from scrap wood and optimism. Someone passes around cigarettes. You don't smoke, but you hold one anyway. Feels like ritual. Then someone you think it's the new guy, Frank from Ohio, pulls out a real harmonica. Not looted. Not battlefield salvage. It's his. From home. He plays. Badly. But that's not the point. He plays something slow, sad, familiar. A tune that's half lullaby, half goodbye. No one talks. You just sit there, under the stars, listening to a man coax music out of a battered bit of metal while the war holds its breath around you. Afterward, he wipes the harmonica clean and says, "My dad taught me that when I was 8. Said music keeps the ghosts away." You nod. Did it work? He looks around. Tonight, maybe. You crawl into your foxhole late, stomach mostly empty, head still ringing with the echo of that song. You lie there, staring at the stars, hand resting on your helmet, fingers still stained from diffusing someone else's death. And just before you fall asleep, you whisper to yourself, "Pray for the lost." The rain comes back with a vengeance. Not a drizzle. Not mist. A full-throated, no-holds-barred downpour, like the sky finally decided to have a nervous breakdown and chose your foxhole as its therapist. You wake to water pouring down your collar and pooling around your ankles. Your boots slightly float, which seems scientifically impossible. But here we are. You sit up, blink rain out of your eyes, and mutter, "I'm starting to take this personally." Wilkins peeks over the side of his own personal lake. "If Noah shows up, I'm not sharing my rations." You both climb out of your holes and slosh toward the supply tent, which has turned into a kind of refugee center for the thoroughly soaked. Soldiers huddle under the flaps, sipping coffee made from what must be burnt dirt and something faintly citrusy. Jules, the cook, hands you a tin of something he calls stew. It steams. That's all you care about. "Rain's good luck," he says. Keeps the bombers grounded. You raise a soggy eyebrow. "That true?" He shrugs. "No idea." But it sounds comforting, doesn't it? It does. You eat your stew and watch the camp come to life under the storm. Tarps flap wildly. Tents collapse like defeated thoughts. A jeep tries to drive uphill, fails, and slides backward with a squeal that turns into a soft splash. And then someone yells, "Incoming wounded!" That phrase always cuts through everything. A truck rolls in, tires spitting mud, engine whining. 3 medics jump off the back and start unloading stretchers. You recognize one of the faces, a corporal from a unit 2 sectors over. His legs bandaged, soaked red. "Sniper," one of the medics says. You move to help. Not because you're told to, but because standing still feels wrong. The inside of the aid tent is chaos, low voices, clinking tools, the metallic smell of blood and antiseptic mixing in the damp air. You grab gauze, clean instruments, hold a flashlight for a medic whose hands are too busy saving a life to hold it himself. The wounded man on the table grabs your wrist mid-procedure. His eyes are wide, panicked. "Did we lose the road?" he gasps. You shake your head. "Still ours." He let go. The medic nods at you. Good answer. You step back outside, drenched in more than just rain now. Martinez appears beside you, handing you a flask. "Medic's whiskey," he says. You take a sip. It burns like purpose. Later that afternoon, after the wounded are stabilized and the rain slows from rage to sulking drizzle, you help set up a new perimeter. The ground is so muddy your boots get stuck twice. and Wilkins nearly loses his in a particularly aggressive puddle. "Quick, Mud," he says solemnly. "It's evolving." But you finish the task. You hang your poncho on a bent tree branch, stretch your back, and sit on a crate under what used to be a roof. The lieutenant comes by with a new update. The push towards Saint-Lô has begun. You're next in line. You'll move at first light. There's a rustle through the ranks. Not fear, not even excitement, just acknowledgement. You always knew it was coming. You spend the evening writing letters. One to your sister short, just enough to say you're alive. One to a friend who probably thinks you're already dead. And one that you don't sign. You fold it carefully and put it in the pocket under your shirt. Wilkins draws a mustache on the side of a ration tin and names it Captain Crabcakes. Martinez draws a map in the dirt with a stick, practicing tomorrow's route. He doesn't speak, but when you offer him a piece of cheese from your stash, he nods once. You know that means, "Thank you." Olu. Quirky bit of trivia? During long campaigns, some GIs started superstitious. Habits never wearing the same socks 2 days in a row, always packing lucky coins, or drawing specific symbols on ammo boxes. One guy swore by tucking a rabbit's foot into his helmet net. Another refused to eat meat on patrol days. You never got that far. Your ritual is simpler. One deep breath before stepping off. One last glance at the sky. One whispered promise to yourself. Just get through this next bit. You lie back in your foxhole that night. The rain finally reduced to occasional drips off nearby leaves. Wilkins hums something tuneless. Martinez sharpens a pencil with a knife, even though you're pretty sure it's already sharp enough to take down a tree. Someone across the way starts telling a joke. It's not good. Something about a nun, a latrine, and a goat. But it makes someone laugh. And that's enough. You close your eyes. Tomorrow, you move. Toward Saint-Lô. Toward whatever comes next. But for now, you sleep with dry socks, a full belly, and a letter tucked close to your heart. The road to Saint-Lô is nothing like the maps. You've studied those maps. Everyone has. Lines and dots and arrows, crisp black on white, telling the story of progress like it's as neat as a math problem. Reality? Reality is mud, and trees, and craters big enough to lose trucks in. You step off just after dawn, boots already wet, pack already heavy. The rain has stopped, but the air is thick with yesterday's steam and something worse, gunpowder, rot, and the sharp, coppery scent of unearthed things. The column moves slow. Tanks up front, infantry behind. You're somewhere in the middle, close enough to hear both the engine rumbles and the whispered jokes. Wilkins is behind you, already muttering under his breath. Martinez is ahead, glancing sideways at every shadow like it owes him money. You pass a field full of wreckage, half-buried helmets, twisted bikes, burned-out jeeps. None of it looks recent. Just leftovers from someone else's battle. You step over a shattered canteen. Pause. Then keep walking. The first mile is uneventful. The second, less so. A mortar shell hits to the left out of sight, but close enough that the vibration kicks dust off your helmet. Everyone drops. Training takes over. Then nothing. False alarm? Misfire? You wait. The lieutenant sends scouts. They come back shrugging. Just noise, one says. You move again. But the silence afterward feels tighter. The third mile opens into a sunken lane, stone walls on both sides, barely wide enough for a tank. You fan out, rifles up. The air here is too still. And then the smell hits. You round a bend and find the source. 3 bodies. German uniforms. Slumped beside a ditch. Flies thick in the air. There's a note pinned to one of their shirts. In French, the lieutenant reads it aloud. We lost the road. Take it back. Make it matter. No one speaks for a moment. Then you move on. What else can you do? You pass a farmhouse shortly after. The roof's gone, the windows blown out, but a rooster still struts in the yard like nothing happened. Wilkins mutters, "That bird's tougher than we are." Martinez raises rifle briefly. You say, "Don't you dare shoot our new mascot." The squad chuckles. Briefly. At noon, the convoy halts. The tanks need fuel. Or a map. Or divine guidance. You sit on a broken wall and share a can of sardines with Wilkins, who insists on calling them field sushi. Nothing says high cuisine like fish in a tin, he says, chewing grimly. You know what'd be good with this? You sieg. Don't say mustard. Mustard. You throw a rock at his boot. The sun comes out as you finish eating. It doesn't warm much, but it's something. The fields ahead shimmer with steam rising from soaked earth. You hear thunder, then realize it's not weather. It's artillery. Distant. Southwest. Likely St. Lo. You check your gear again. Not because it needs it, just because. An hour later, the tanks move again. You follow. The road curves between two hedgerows that are suspiciously quiet. Then comes the shot. Single. Precise. Someone ahead screams. Sniper. Chaos ripples through the line like electricity. You hit the ground behind the nearest bush. Bullets whiz past in tight, angry snaps. The lieutenant shouts, "Eyes on the barn." You see it half collapsed, ivy covered, just ahead on the left. A perfect hide. Return fire bursts from your side, dozens of rifles, one machine gun. You join in, firing toward every crack and gap you can find. Then, silence. A beat. Then another shot. You see the glint this time, from the second floor. Martinez spots it too. He signals left, then disappears into the brush. Seconds stretch. Then boom. A grenade rolls through the upper window. Dust. Debris. No more shots. You wait. Breathe. Your trigger finger still twitching. Eventually, the lieutenant waves forward. You enter the barn cautiously. It's empty now, save for one figure slumped beside the stairs. Young. Too young. Beside him, the rifle rests neatly on a crate. Balanced. Clean. And there's a photo in his shirt pocket, him and a dog. Wilkins doesn't look, just pulls the grenade pin from the wall and hands it back to Martinez. You exit the barn. St. Lo is close now. You can smell its stone, smoke, and something electric in the air. The tension before a storm. Historians still debate whether St. Lo was strategically vital or just a symbolic target. You don't care. All you know is that every road seems to lead there, and every story seems to end nearby. You're moving again, one foot in front of the other, mud clinging to every seam of your uniform. Martinez taps your arm and hands you something. It's the harmonica, the one from Frank. The one that survived last week's shelling in a sock roll. You raise an eyebrow. Martinez just shrugs. You put it to your lips. Don't play. Just hold it. Because tonight might be music. Or it might be silence. And either way, you'll be there to hear it. St. Lo is a skeleton. You don't see it all at once. First comes the smell burned wood, scorched stone, something metallic and bitter that coats the inside of your mouth like rust. Then the sound. Distant gunfire, the hum of planes you can't see, and the occasional cough of an engine that refuses to die. And finally the town itself, what's left of it. You crest a rise just before dawn, belly crawling to the edge of a shallow ridge. Below, through the haze and smoke, you see the fractured bones of what used to be buildings. Roofless homes, churches with spires sheared in half, rubble piled into neat chaos by shells and time. This was a place where people lived. Now, it's the front line. Your orders are simple. Hold position on the outskirts until armor pushes through. Secure the western flank. Don't die. That last one is always implied. You dig in near the remains of a stone wall, barely high enough to offer cover. Wilkins picks a spot next to you, checking his sights like he's adjusting binoculars at a baseball game. Martinez sets up further left, nestled behind a half-collapsed fruit cart. You wait. The sun rises slow, reluctant. It casts long shadows through the fog, making every broken doorway look like a person waiting to move. And then, the fight starts. It begins with artillery our side. Big guns, barking from somewhere behind the trees. The shells whistle overhead and slam into town like angry punctuation. Then comes the reply. German mortars. Sharp, sudden. They fall short, then long, then short again. One lands close enough to shower your face with dirt and a piece of what used to be a shoe. You taste earth, flinch, spit, and then return fire. The battle surges like a tide forward, back, forward again. Infantry moves in waves, ducking behind debris and hedgerows, firing in bursts. You see one soldier, barely more than a kid, bolt across an open stretch and get caught mid-stride. He crumples, face down, hands still reaching forward. You learn not to look too long. By noon, your squad has advanced 5 blocks. That's the official count. Unofficially, you've moved maybe 300 yards, through what used to be a bakery, a tailor shop, and something that might have been a florist. You find a single wilted rose crushed under a fallen beam. Wilkins puts it behind his ear. Romantic, he says, for when we're storming bunkers with style. You almost laugh. Almost. The sky darkens as smoke thickens. Somewhere above, planes pass low American, thankfully. One drops a flare that paints the ruined street in green light, and for a moment, it looks like a dream sequence from a film you'd rather not be in. You hunker down behind a shattered window frame. A family photo still sits on the sill-cracked glass, 3 smiling faces. You wonder if they left in time. Probably not. Martinez calls out, "Movement." Everyone drops. You squint through a broken doorway and see them 2 figures darting between alleys, quick, sharp, deliberate. Return fire is immediate. Loud. Focused. They're gone before you get a good look. Might have been scouts, might have been bait, might have been scared boys trying to run home. Historians still argue how many defenders were left in Saint-Lô by the time the Allies pushed in full force. Some say a few dozen diehards. Others claim over 100 held out in basements, sniping from under rubble. You believe both. Evening nears. The sun never really comes out, but the light begins to shift, duller, flatter. The kind of glow that says, if you haven't survived yet, you're running out of time. Your hands ache from gripping your rifle. Your ears ring constantly now, not from one explosion, but the collective memory of hundreds. You change positions, crawling to a new vantage point. There's a crater the size of a car, where a street once was. In it, you find a helmet full of rainwater and a cat alive, somehow curled on a dry patch of wood. You leave it be. You eat in shifts, hardtack and mystery meat spread. Martinez claims it's chicken. Wilkins says raccoon. You don't ask. Then the order comes. One last push before nightfall. Your unit links up with another guys from Pennsylvania, covered in dust and bravado. They crack jokes, smoke like chimneys, and check their ammo with surgeon-like focus. You move as one, slipping through alleys, clearing basements, calling out codes you barely remember learning. The last house, on the block, resists. 3 defenders inside, cornered, desperate. They fire until they're out of rounds, then toss a grenade that lands in a hallway and doesn't explode. Dud. You breach fast. Wilkins kicks the door. Martinez leads in with his shoulder. You don't fire until you see hands. Raised. The 3 Germans are barely older than you. One's bleeding from the shoulder. Another is crying. You tie them, hand them over, then stand in what used to be someone's kitchen, breathing like you just ran a marathon inside a firework factory. The stove is still intact. A pot sits on the burner. You lift the lid. Potatoes. Burned to paste. But still potatoes. Quirky fact. Some German defenders in Normandy boiled the last of their rations before surrendering, convinced the Allies would starve them in return. Most were surprised to be handed cigarettes and chocolate instead. You sit on the floor. Wilkins slides down beside you. Martinez stands watch at the window, silent, rifle at rest. The fight for Saint-Lô isn't over, but you're still here. And tonight, in this bombed-out kitchen, with the ghost of a meal in the air, you feel, for just a moment, something dangerously close to peace. The official line comes through at dawn. Saint-Lô is ours. It's not shouted, no cheering. Just a calm statement from the radio tent, as if someone had finished building a shed or mowed the lawn. You're sitting on a stack of bricks when you hear it. Your first thought isn't triumph. It's exhaustion. Like the whole earth exhaled and you're finally allowed to sag. Wilkins walks over, holding a canteen and 2 cigarettes. "Congratulations," he says. "We now own this pile of ash. You take the cigarette, light it on a still smouldering timber, and stare at the sunrise. What little of it you can see through the haze. Saint-Lô doesn't look like victory. It looks like a city bombed until it forgot its own name. Church bells lie in the street. The courthouse is a skeleton. Horses, real ones, not metaphor, pick their way through rubble like they've been asked to judge the destruction. Still, it's quiet, and quiet is rare. You spend the morning sweeping buildings again. The real kind of sweeping, not metaphor. Dust, glass, broken furniture, a few bodies, though fewer than you expect. Most were buried days ago, or fled, or vaporized. Martinez finds a radio in a wine cellar. Old, German-made. He fiddles with it until it buzzes to life. And for 15 glorious minutes, you listen to the crackly sound of someone playing a piano 3 towns away. No lyrics, just melody. You sit on the stairs and let it wash over you. It feels like being human again. Wilkins whispers, "If they start playing poker, I'm defecting." Later, you help carry supplies to a makeshift triage center set up in what used to be a post office. The shelves are still marked Envoi Urgents, urgent deliveries. You think of how many letters never made it, how many promises dissolved in rain and smoke. You find one envelope on the floor. The ink is blurred, but the name's still legible. Lucy. You leave it on the counter, just in case. By mid-afternoon, the engineers arrive. They're cheerful in that weird way. Engineers are joking about crater size, measuring walls, pointing at maps with gloved fingers like, "This is a renovation project." One of them mutters, "In a month there'll be a cafe here again, watch." You don't argue. You want to believe that. The lieutenant calls you over. They're rotating us out for rest. Finally. You blink. Rest? The word sounds fake, like someone invented it as a prank. But it's true. You're heading back behind the lines. Not home, never home, but somewhere with beds, maybe. Hot food, clean water, rumors of showers. The truck ride out is surreal. You pass landmarks you recognize only by smell. The pig farm near the crossroads, the ditch where you almost stepped on a mine, the hedgerow where someone carved a smiley face into a tree trunk. Wilkins hums a tune slow, strange, maybe made up. Martinez sleeps with his helmet tilted forward, harmonica still in his chest pocket. You cross a shallow river on the way. It sparkles in the sun, and you wonder how water can still be so clean here, like it hasn't heard the news. Historians still argue whether the Battle of Saint-Lô was worth the cost, whether the gains justified the destruction. The town was flattened, the dead numbered in the thousands, but it opened the road to Paris, to liberation, to the end. You don't know about strategy, but you remember the harmonica, the potatoes in the pot, the rooster that refused to flee. You remember surviving. The rest camp isn't luxurious, just a cluster of tents in a field that smells like wet hay and diesel. But there are beds. And soap? You strip off your mud-caked uniform, drop it in a pile, and step under the pump shower with a gasp. The water is cold. Shockingly cold. You don't care. You wash off Saint-Lô one layer at a time. Dirt, smoke, fear, ghosts. Wilkins yelps from the next stall. "This water's got teeth." You laugh. Out loud. And it doesn't feel wrong. Later, you eat something warm that's not from a can. There's even pineapple, they say. It tastes like memory. You write a letter to your sister. You write, "I made it through Saint-Lô." You don't mention the boy in the kitchen, or the sniper's photo, or the smell of the harmonica strap on your neck when it rains. You just say, "We're alive." And that's enough. That night, you lie in a cot, listening to wind instead of artillery. You close your eyes. The war isn't over. But tonight, you rest. And now, as the lights fade in your mind and the echoes of distant gunfire settle into soft, harmless static, your body finally gives permission to let go. The weight of the helmet eases. The straps release. Your fingers loosen their grip on the rifle that was once an extension of your arm, now just a shadow in memory. The mud on your boots has dried and cracked. The harmonica lies silent in your chest pocket, warmed by skin and heartbeat. Somewhere, in the back of your thoughts, the streets of Saint-Lô rebuild themselves brick by brick, window by window. The rooster still struts across the rubble. A flower grows in the broken wall. The night air at the rest camp is cool, tinged with pine and diesel and distant laughter. A harmonica plays far off, out of tune, but tender. No commands, no whistles, no watches. Just the quiet rhythm of your breathing and the softness of canvas above your head. You made it. You passed through smoke and memory, through fear and fog, and came out on the other side still yourself. Changed. Yes, bent in places, but unbroken. Let the thoughts drift now. Let the past grow fuzzy around the edges. Let the sound of your heartbeat become the only rhythm you need. Sleep comes like a medic's touch, gentle, practiced, welcome, and you are safe. For now, and for tonight, you are safe.